in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. At the Chen mansion, Lord Chen had returned home. Lady Chen, worried about Lily, immediately asked her husband about what their daughter had encountered on the street today. Unexpectedly, the conversation led to another person, Snow Lai. After hearing this, Lady Chen was stunned. Honestly, if Lord Chen hadn't mentioned it today, she would have almost forgotten who Snowly was. She never imagined that someone she had nearly forgotten had harbored resentment for decades, always secretly competing and comparing herself to Lady Chen. Lady Chen had never paid attention to such matters, but did Snowly really feel happy acting this way? Oh, people can be so strange sometimes, spending their entire lives consumed by jealousy over an imaginary enemy they created themselves. Such people, no matter how much they possess, would find it difficult to achieve true happiness. Seeing his wife's mood dampened by this matter, Lord Chen quickly changed the subject. My dear, now that the court has funds to provide disaster relief to the southern region, we don't need to live so frugally anymore. How about having the servants buy some meat today and having the kitchen prepare a feast tonight? What do you think? The children have been clamoring for meat every day lately. While the couple was talking, a young servant suddenly ran in to report, Master, Madam, there are people continuously delivering lots of meat outside the gate, pork, chicken, duck, everything. Steward Lin doesn't know how to handle this and sent me to invite Master to come and see. Someone sent meat. Do you know who sent it? Lady Chen asked suspiciously. Master has always been upright and has never accepted bribes from anyone. In the past, when people sent gifts, they were all declined. Over time, everyone came to know Lord Chen's character, so no one dared to come to the Chen mansion to offer presents anymore. Why would someone suddenly send things today? The servant doesn't know either. Those people were very strange, they just put the items down and left immediately. When asked, they only said someone paid them to bring the items to our mansion, and they knew nothing else. Lord Chen felt a flash of suspicion. Good heavens, don't tell me it was sent by those old fellows from court. Let's go take a look. Lady Chen also followed Lord Chen outside to see what was happening. Sure enough, right in front of the Chen mansion gate, rows upon rows of bamboo baskets were neatly arranged. Opening them revealed pork, chicken, duck, all kinds of meat. Good heavens, all this meat combined must weigh several 100 pounds at least. Looking at the layers upon layers of meat stacked 3 deep, Lord Chen felt his face burning with embarrassment, not knowing where to hide his shame. He immediately understood the source of the situation. Without much thought, this was definitely the work of those court ministers from this afternoon's session. They must have heard Lily's inner thoughts, thinking that because she had no meat to eat, she could only eat beans, which led to her terrible flatulence. To avoid having to smell Lily's unpleasant odor every day, they had no choice but to reach into their own pockets and bring meat for her to eat. Lord Chen's guess was absolutely correct. This pile of meat was indeed sent by those ministers. Just think about it, having to smell that fragrant aroma every day at court, and such a terrible smell at that, who could endure it? If Lord Chen was too stingy to buy meat for little Miss Chen, then why couldn't they buy it instead? Although these people were naturally stingy, they had no choice but to spend this money, considerate paying to avoid disaster. Lord Chen unconsciously raised his hand to cover his face. Oh, how embarrassing. Truly embarrassing beyond belief. Sir, how should we handle this pile of meat? Steward Lin looked at the mountain-high pile of meat, truly not knowing what to do. He was an old hand in the Chen household and understood his master's temperament well. Master had never accepted bribes from anyone. If what was sent were gold, silver, or precious jewels, he would have immediately refused. But to say this pile of meat was a bribe. He had never seen anyone bribe a court official with meat before, especially when this meat wasn't sent by one person, but seemed to be the result of a group consultation. This matter was too strange. He didn't dare decide on his own and hurriedly invited Lord Chen to come and see. Lord Chen glanced at the pile of meat, sighed and reluctantly said, Well, since it's already been sent, it would be a waste not to take it. Have the servants bring it all inside. He really didn't have the face to return these baskets of meat to each person individually. Lady Chen asked suspiciously, Bring it all inside. So you know who sent this meat? This was clearly not Lord Chen's usual style at all. Lord Chen could only smile bitterly. Isn't it all because of that mischievous girl Lily? Lady Chen became even more confused upon hearing this. Huh? Lily? What does this have to do with Lily? Oh. Lord Chen didn't know how to begin, so he leaned close to his wife's ear and briefly recounted what had happened at court that afternoon. What? Lady Chen nearly fell backward after hearing this. Good heavens, Lily. A proper young lady like her actually dared to have such thunderous flatulence in front of all the civil and military officials, even in front of His Majesty, and it was so foul-smelling it was unbearable. How utterly embarrassing. No matter what, she's still a daughter of a prestigious family. How could she give birth to such a carefree young lady? The hidden guards lurking in the shadows, upon hearing this, nearly went mad with laughter. Throughout history, causing the entire court to collectively send gifts because of flatulence, probably only little Miss Chen could achieve such a unique feat. Truly unique indeed. When Emperor Ming heard the news, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Having already broken his composure, he didn't bother maintaining his image anymore and laughed until he sounded like a honking goose. The Empress standing beside him secretly glanced at Emperor Ming. Good heavens, was this still the dignified emperor she knew? Although this matter was indeed funny, didn't His Majesty need to maintain some dignity? And weren't those ministers going a bit too far? Little Miss Chen only passed gas a few times, though it wasn't very elegant. Was it really worth making such a big fuss and bringing meat to Lord Chen's mansion like this? Wasn't this too dramatic? Unexpectedly Eunuch Reed spoke up. See, Your Majesty, should we still send the meat that we secretly had prepared? Emperor Ming clutched his stomach, continuously waving his hand. No need anymore. Those ministers beat us to it, so let's keep our meat and give it to the Imperial kitchen. Have them prepare a few more delicious dishes for tonight's dinner. It's been a long time since I've had a proper meal with meat. At this moment, Emperor Ming truly wanted to applaud and praise those ministers. These people had finally done something sensible for once. How could anyone endure Lily's flatulence? You are the emperor, surely you wouldn't let a mere smell drive you to fury. Empress, when it comes to being stingy, I'm afraid no one can surpass His Majesty. That evening, looking at the table full of meat, Lily's eyes lit up brilliantly. Finally, I get to eat meat. It had been nearly half a month since she'd even smelled meat, and she was so excited her heart was pounding. Oh meat, here I come. Her left hand grabbed a large chicken drumstick, her right arm hugged a piece of pork shoulder, and she took a big bite, her mouth full of grease. Lord Chen couldn't bear to watch and couldn't help but nag. You're a girl, can't you eat a little more gracefully? Look at the way you're eating. I know, why should I listen to you? What's fun about eating gracefully? This is how you really enjoy food, Lily said. Lord Chen, Lady Chen, Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen were all laughing hysterically inside. Ha ha ha. Although this daughter was truly headache-inducing and her eating manner was indescribable, seeing her father's helpless expression was somehow hilarious. The servants also bit their lips tightly, trying not to laugh, nearly giving themselves internal injuries. Lily didn't bother looking up, just kept her head down devouring the food. System, aren't you curious? Why is there suddenly meat to eat today? And so much meat prepared too. What's there to be curious about? Father's conscience must have finally awakened. Look, everyone's faces have been pale as vegetables lately, especially me. I'm so thin I'm practically becoming a lightning bolt. Hust, I'm afraid you've misunderstood the word thin, or are you being overly confident about your figure? Look at that little belly of yours, shouldn't you be losing weight instead? Lord Chen and Lady Chen both glanced at Lily's belly and reluctantly shook their heads. The system was about to say, Host, do you know that today you're enjoying good fortune because of your flatulence? But seeing Lily eating so contentedly, the system ultimately couldn't bear to tell her the truth. Lily ate until her belly was round and tight, and only when she truly couldn't stuff in another bite did she contentedly put down her chopsticks. Everyone looked at the mountain of bones piled up in front of Lily, all wide-eyed and exchanging glances with expressions of disbelief. Could our Lily possibly be a reincarnated pig? How can she eat so much? Seeing everyone's exasperated looks, Lily didn't care one bit. What's wrong with eating a lot? Being able to eat well is a great blessing. Lily rubbed her round belly, but didn't forget about asking her mother for some pocket money. She resolutely ignored her mother's expression of helplessness mixed with slight disgust and spoke up. Mother, starting from this month, could you give me some monthly allowance? Lord Chen silently cheered in his heart, but secretly gave Lily a thumbs up in approval. Very brave, truly brave. Even I don't dare ask your mother for pocket money, yet you dare charge forward fearlessly. How admirable. His face showed an expression of enjoyment, as if watching an entertaining show. He only lacked popcorn to complete the experience. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen all secretly observed their mother's expression. Honestly, they also wanted to ask mother for some spending money, but because of their father's overwhelming influence, none of them dared to speak up. Father's salary had always been completely handed over to mother, and they had to report every expense item by item to get money when needed. Put plainly, even their father didn't have pocket money, let alone them daring to ask. Lady Chen glanced at Lily. What does a young lady like you need pocket money for? Lily answered seriously. Naturally, to buy the things I need. Lady Chen didn't bother with that reasoning. Whatever you need, your parents will buy for you. A young lady like you always running around alone, isn't it unsafe to carry money? Besides, your brothers and sister don't have pocket money either. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen hung their heads, sighing inwardly. As expected, mother would say that. But Lily was full of confidence. She glanced at her siblings. How can it be the same? Right now they don't have jobs yet, but I'm different. I've started attending court and have a salary. Asking for some pocket money is perfectly reasonable, isn't it? Lily had investigated thoroughly. In the Northern Dynasty, salaries were usually paid in advance for half the month, with the remainder paid at month's end. Although she'd only been attending court for a few days, by her calculations, her salary should have been paid already. If she hadn't received it, that money had definitely gone into her mother's pocket. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen were quite surprised to hear this, and all looked at Lily simultaneously. Hemph, look how pleased you are with yourself. You've only been at court for 2 days, and you're already looking down on everyone else. Lord Chen thought to himself, I've been receiving salary for decades, have I ever said anything? Paffed. Lady Chen nearly burst out laughing. You've only been at court for 3 days and you're already eyeing that little salary of yours. For the past 13 years, you've eaten my food, worn my clothes, spent my money. Why didn't I see you mention money matters then? Lily pouted. Mother, that's not fair. Before I came of age, supporting me was your responsibility. But now that I've started attending court, you can't keep all my money. These are 2 different matters. Lady Chen found it amusing. Such a small person yet so good at making distinctions. Don't worry, I'm keeping your money safe for you. When you grow up, I'll return it all to you. Lily didn't speak outwardly, but kept muttering inwardly. Yeah right, the same old excuse. I'd be stupid to believe you. In my previous life, my New Year's money was tricked away the same way. Although Lady Chen didn't understand what Lily meant by previous life or New Year's money, she clearly understood her daughter's thoughts. She simply didn't trust her. Lady Chen pointed toward Lord Chen. The reason I keep the money is because I'm afraid you'll lose it or spend it recklessly without self-control. Look, for all these years, your father's salary has been kept by me. Have I ever forbidden him from using it? Whenever he wants to spend money, he can take it anytime. Whether I keep it or he keeps it, isn't it the same? We're all family, what difference does it make where it's kept, right dear? Lord Chen, who had been enjoying the show, was suddenly called upon and quickly nodded. Right. Your mother speaks wisely. Lily, listen to your mother. She's doing this for your own good. How could I dare say no? Lily hung her head without responding, feeling frustrated inside. Sweet, talking couple. Always saying things to deceive people. Father, could you show some backbone? If you're too afraid of your wife to tell the truth, fine. But don't obstruct me from reclaiming my rightfully earned money. Lord Chen, Alex Chen, Jack Chen, Grace Chen, and Lady Chen were all speechless. All right, let me tell you the truth. His Majesty hasn't even issued your salary yet. Lady Chen was clearly joking with this statement, and no one took it seriously. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen shook their heads, thinking to themselves, as expected, mother is still formidable, bringing up His Majesty like that. Who would dare demand salary from him? But unexpectedly, Lily took it seriously. Having received her mother's promise, she contentedly rubbed her round belly and returned to her room. She had eaten too much today and didn't feel like sleeping. What was that saying again? Ah yes. A full belly breeds mischievous thoughts. How true that was. But what Lily was thinking about wasn't mischievous thoughts, but rather her collection of romance novels. Well, that was pretty close to mischievous thoughts anyway. In this era, entertainment was scarce, there were no electronic devices, so these romance novels were Lily's only source of spiritual nourishment after a satisfying meal. At this moment, she burped twice and then continued reading her well-worn romance novel with an entranced expression. Seeing its master so absorbed, the system also became curious. Master, is that romance novel really that good? Could it be more interesting than the stories I tell you? Lily thought for a moment and answered seriously. System. You can't compare things like that. It's like in the modern world, people enjoy playing games, watching movies, and scrolling through short videos. Can you say which one is more interesting? The system thought about it and nodded. That seemed right. As a system specialized in gossip gathering, it had only ever focused on gossip and never tried anything else. Perhaps it should try experiencing some new things too. Master, could you let me read some of your romance novels? Sure. No problem. But system, are you mature enough? The content might not be suitable for children, you know. She gave a mischievous smile. System, if I remember correctly, host, you haven't reached adulthood yet, have you? No. This is ancient times. In ancient times, a girl only needs to have her coming-of-age ceremony at 15 to be considered an adult. The system asked doubtfully. So host, aren't you still under 15? System, you're wrong again. I'm already over 13, so there's less than a year until I'm 15. No, it's not even 2 years yet. If you round up, it's approximately 15, so wouldn't that count as being an adult? System, is that how you do rounding? I feel like something's not right here. Host, I don't read much, don't try to fool me. Alright. If you want to read it, then let's read together. So Lily climbed onto her bed, lay down on her stomach, and pulled the system along to seriously flip through the novel. The system was quickly captivated by the intricate plot and vivid writing style, becoming more and more absorbed until it even forgot to urge Lily to go to sleep. Only when the lamp oil ran dry did the person and system reluctantly put down the book. Oh my, this novel is truly fascinating, host. I want to read more tomorrow night too. The system said longingly before Lily fell asleep. The next morning, when Lord Chen came to wake her, sure enough, Lily was still sound asleep. Lord Chen was used to this scene and without a word, directly carried her to the carriage. But today, as soon as she got in the carriage, Lily drowsily opened her eyes. Seeing Lord Chen, she yawned and greeted him. Father, why are you intruding into my dreams like this? Then she closed her eyes and continued sleeping dreamily. Lord Chen looked at this worrying daughter of his, and could only remain silent. You certainly sleep soundly. But thinking about the big gossip she had picked up at yesterday's court session, Lord Chen decided to wake her up to give her some warnings. He tried hard to pinch her cheeks, and when he heard her mumble a few sounds before going back to sleep, Lord Chen had to resort to his ultimate move. He took out a handkerchief and covered her nose tightly, determined to wake her up. Sure enough, Lily jolted awake from her dream, sat up suddenly, and gasped for air with her mouth wide open. When she opened her eyes and saw Lord Chen, she sighed with relief. Oh, thank goodness, it was just a dream. Father, I just dreamed that someone was trying to suffocate me with a piece of cloth. It scared me to death. How terrifying. Father, who do you think that person was to be so cruel? Lord Chen quickly hid his hands behind his back, afraid she would discover the truth. Then he coughed twice. Don't overthink it, didn't you say it was just a dream? Dreams are all fake. Oh, and today at court, you need to behave yourself a bit, understand? Having to worry every day during court sessions, I feel like my heart can't take it much longer. Father, yesterday was just an accident. I've already figured out a solution. From now on, even if I fall asleep, I absolutely won't make any sounds. Lily rubbed her eyes, thinking her father was blaming her for snoring during yesterday's court session. Although that was indeed embarrassing, she had already come up with a plan. During court, she would secretly stuff some fabric in her mouth. After all, she didn't need to speak anyway, and her position was quite discreet. Usually no one paid attention to her. She had even prepared the fabric to gag herself with. Lord Chen hadn't yet understood what she meant when the system reacted first. You're not planning to use that fabric to gag yourself, are you? Exactly. That way I won't make any sounds. System. Didn't I tell you yesterday when you were rummaging around looking for fabric, insisting it had to be thick and a color close to your skin tone? I thought you were planning to do something else. See, I'm very clever, aren't I? Host. Please don't tell me you think gagging yourself will prevent snoring. Wouldn't that work? Of course not. Snoring is caused by soft tissue in the throat vibrating with airflow, not sounds coming from the mouth. If you gag yourself, you might accidentally suffocate yourself. Ha! Really? Good heavens, and I spent the whole night thinking about this. Lord Chen said. Why don't you think about going to bed a little earlier, so you won't doze off during court sessions? He really wanted to crack open her head to see what messy things were inside. Fortunately, this mischievous daughter only dared to gossip about the ministers, and that was probably what Emperor Ming wanted to hear anyway. With Emperor Ming's protection, she probably wouldn't encounter any danger, as long as she didn't gossip about His Majesty or the harem. The carriage driver outside also had to hold back his laughter until his face turned red. Their young lady was truly hilarious beyond words. At the court session, Lily still just stood next to the court recorder with nothing to do. To avoid repeating yesterday's embarrassing scene, this time she obediently perked up her ears, determined to listen carefully to what the ministers were discussing. Surely these matters of national importance would be interesting. Who would have thought that after listening for a while, she started nodding off again? Good heavens, what was so interesting about this? The things they were discussing were even more boring than Lily's. System. Oh my little ancestor, please don't doze off again. You can't really blame me, can you? I really intended to listen seriously just now, but these people are incredibly boring. All day long they argue endlessly over trivial matters like chicken feathers and garlic peels. They're so boring they nearly put me to sleep. The ministers. So your lordship finds court sessions boring because of us ministers? Emperor Ming. What do you mean trivial matters? How has my work become so worthless in your mouth? System. How about this, let me tell you an exciting story to savor. Lily yawned again and said, then quickly tell me a really thrilling story to wake me up. It has to be truly earth-shaking, otherwise I'm afraid I won't be to hold on, I'm too sleepy. System. Alright, I'll search immediately and guarantee to tell you a truly spectacular story. Just hang on a little longer. Originally in the court, the ministers were still arguing noisily, and Emperor Ming sat on the dragon throne. When they heard the words, thrilling, everyone immediately perked up their ears. Was there another big story to follow? Suddenly, everyone felt an inexplicable excitement in their hearts. Especially Emperor Ming. Recently he had become completely obsessed with gossip. If he didn't hear a thrilling story for a day, he felt restless all over and couldn't even enjoy his meals. Emperor Ming thought to himself, I wonder which unlucky person will become the center of today's story. From the other side, the system's voice rang out. System found it. Today's thrilling story involves your emperor. Good heavens, why is it so exciting? Ah, even a proper system has to be stunned by this. Upon hearing this, Lily immediately perked up and hurriedly asked, What is it? What is it? Tell me quickly. Emperor Ming, why am I becoming the subject of gossip? Eating gossip is indeed refreshing, but when you yourself become the subject of gossip, and it's being discussed publicly in front of all the civil and military officials, that's not pleasant at all. The ministers, good heavens, it's about His Majesty again. Is this something we ministers can hear? Although they thought this way, their bodies were extremely honest. They unconsciously lowered their voices when discussing state affairs while simultaneously perking up their ears, wanting to hear what gossip it was. Lord Chen was experiencing exactly what he feared most. He suddenly had an ominous premonition. This little rascal was already unruly on normal days, and today she actually dared to gossip about His Majesty. Moreover, in front of His Majesty himself and the entire civil and military court. Why did he feel like it wasn't him hearing her inner thoughts, but rather her hearing his inner thoughts, knowing he didn't want her to gossip about His Majesty? So she was deliberately doing the opposite. Why did he suddenly feel a chill down his neck? Lily was completely unaware of the undercurrents surging through the court. At this moment, she was concentrating all her attention on preparing to hear gossip. For her, the bigger the gossip, the more fragrant it was, regardless of whose gossip it was. After all, She had no idea that everyone in the court could hear the conversation between her and the system. At this moment, the system was ready. Its voice trembled with excitement. Your emperor has been cuckolded. Not only cuckolded, but cuckolded extremely thoroughly. Because he's cuckolded almost every day, sometimes more than once a day. This statement exploded like a bomb right in the middle of the court, causing everyone in the Great Hall to be horrified. Their emperor had been cuckolded. What kind of situation was this? Eunuch Reed, standing beside His Majesty, was so frightened by this statement that his legs trembled. His Majesty cuckolded, and moreover cuckolded every day. What man could endure such a thing? Especially when this person was the Supreme Emperor. He didn't even dare think about what His Majesty would do when he became angry. If His Majesty was unhappy, would he, a close eunuch, have any good days left to live? His Majesty was so angry that his breath rushed straight to the top of his head, nearly spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. What was this system saying so nonsensically? What did it mean he was cuckolded? Moreover, cuckolded almost every day, sometimes more than once. Lily was also astonished. Although in the TV dramas she had watched, emperors being cuckolded wasn't rare. Those emperors were either old or ugly. But their emperor, honestly speaking, was quite handsome and in the prime of his life. How could he be cuckolded? Therefore, Lily hurriedly asked, "System, you're not mistaken, are you? Our emperor is so handsome and charming, at just the right age and in his prime, and moreover he's the sovereign of a nation. How could he be cuckolded?" Unexpectedly hearing Lily praise him like this, His Majesty's heart felt slightly better. Indeed, he was also very satisfied with his own appearance. Therefore, he began to wonder if the system had made some mistake. But before he could feel happy for long, Lily said something that made him nearly spit blood again. She suddenly seemed to remember something and excitedly shouted in her heart, "What? I know. Could he be like Minister Liu? He can't perform." The ministers were shocked to this extent. Our emperor can't perform in that aspect. Even the princes now looked at their father with eyes full of sympathy. Their father was already over 40. Could he be starting to fail? Lord Chen spat. This little rascal really dares to think anything. Good heavens, why do I feel even more of a chill down my neck? Your Majesty, your whole family can't perform. I'm very capable, very capable. Understand. His demeanor was just short of performing on the spot to prove that he really could. Whatever you say, how could a man you said to be incapable? Especially in front of so many ministers like this. If this matter wasn't clarified today and spread outside, what face would he have left to be a person? Fortunately, without him needing to perform on the spot, the system spoke up to rescue him. System, what's your brain thinking about all day? It's not that your emperor can't perform, on the contrary, your emperor is in his prime, with all bodily functions at their peak, unlike that Minister Liu fellow who's already failing at just over 30. Your emperor is the type who can fight long battles without defeat, with explosive combat power. In terms of actual ability, he even surpasses many people present here. Hearing the system praise his abilities like this, His Majesty couldn't help but sit up straight, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned, looking as if he wanted to say, "Did you hear that? I am the strongest man before me. You are all weaklings." It seemed that compared to being cuckolded, being told he couldn't perform was even more unacceptable to him. The ministers looked at His Majesty's provocative gaze and could only sigh inwardly. Fine, you're the emperor. Whatever makes you happy. Lily, so what's the real story? Tell me quickly. Hearing Lily say this, everyone's attention immediately shifted from whether His Majesty could perform to the matter of His Majesty being cuckolded. All the ministers, including His Majesty, perked up their ears, afraid to miss a single word. Especially Emperor Ming, he really wanted to know if he was so capable. Why would any concubine dare to have an affair? Who exactly was so bold as to cuckold him every day? Who had the opportunity to stay in the harem all day and had the ability to do such things in his harem? Besides himself, the concubines, the Empress Dowager, the Imperial concubines, and some underage princes and princesses, there were only palace maids and eunuchs left. Could it be eunuchs? Impossible. Since ancient times, emperors had their roots cut off to prevent eunuchs from doing such things. Even if they had the courage, they lacked the capability. Or could it be those underage princes? His Majesty didn't dare think further. System, here's the situation. In His Majesty's harem there are many concubines, right? But His Majesty is only one person, how can he evenly distribute his reign and due to everyone? Naturally, there are several concubines who regularly don't receive His Majesty's favor. And these concubines are all in their prime, with passionate hearts and needs. When they go unsatisfied for too long, someone becomes restless. That person is Concubine Rose. Upon hearing this, Emperor Ming felt his head explode. What? Concubine Rose, you dare to put a green hat on me? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Concubine Rose looks gentle and lovely. Although she doesn't receive as much favor as Concubine Hayes or the others, I still visit her a couple of times each month. Every time, she appears satisfied. How could she secretly do such outrageous things? Hearing Concubine Rose's name, Minister Howard standing below in court nearly collapsed. Concubine Rose was his beloved daughter. The system had just said his daughter dared to put a green hat on His Majesty. Good heavens, if this was true, his entire family would likely face extermination. The ministers in court looked at Minister Howard with sympathetic eyes. Having a daughter like this was like living with a sword hanging over one's head, constantly in fear and anxiety. While everyone's hearts were in turmoil, Lily was only focused on one thing: how could Concubine Rose manage to have secret affairs every day without being discovered? She asked curiously. How exactly does she manage to have affairs every day without anyone discovering? Aren't there only so many people in the palace? Could she be flirting with those underage princes? According to Northern Dynasty law, once princes came of age, they would be granted titles and leave the palace to establish their own residences. Therefore, only a few underage princes remained in the palace. As for the eunuchs, everyone knew they lacked that capability, so Lily didn't even consider them. System, not to that extent, but this Concubine Rose did indeed set her sights on several adult princes. Fortunately, those princes were all upright people who paid her no attention, leaving her thoroughly disappointed. Lily. This Concubine Rose really has nerves of steel, daring to set her sights on the princes. Fortunately, those princes still had some morals, otherwise if His Majesty had been cuckolded by his own sons, he'd probably have died of rage. Emperor Ming just felt his head throbbing with pain. He truly hadn't expected Concubine Rose to be so audacious. The fifth prince standing below secretly whispered to the second prince. Second brother, is what the system said true? Did Concubine Rose really have such intentions? The second prince glanced at him without answering, but his expression was extremely ugly. He remembered once during a palace banquet, when he felt unwell and went outside for fresh air. He was suddenly embraced tightly from behind by someone whose hands kept groping all over his body, causing him to panic and quickly push away. When he turned to look, it was Concubine Rose. Her eyes looking at him were full of desire, as if hiding longing, as if hinting at something. He was so frightened he nearly cried out. Seeing this, Concubine Rose immediately changed her attitude, kneeling to beg forgiveness, crying and saying his silhouette resembled His Majesty too much, causing her to mistake him. Since Concubine Rose was known for being gentle and virtuous, he didn't suspect anything at the time, thinking she was drunk and confused, which led to such foolish behavior. He even kept this incident to himself to preserve her dignity. Now hearing the conversation between Lily and the system, the second prince suddenly felt goosebumps. Could Concubine Rose have been intentional back then? Only because she saw he had no interest in her did she quickly change her attitude. Thinking carefully, before that incident, Concubine Rose's eyes when looking at him had indeed been somewhat strange, several times seeming to hint at something. He had even blamed himself for being suspicious and felt guilty for having such thoughts. Good heavens, it turned out Concubine Rose really dared to set her sights on him. Just thinking about it made him feel disgusted. The system continued, that's right, host. I must say His Majesty's princes are all very upright, none of them would do anything improper. But Concubine Rose wouldn't give up. Seeing that the princes paid her no attention, she found a eunuch. Lily, what? A eunuch? But eunuchs, what can they do? The ministers were also puzzled. That's right, how could eunuchs have that capability? Could they have misunderstood about eunuchs? Everyone simultaneously turned to look at Eunuch Reed. Eunuch Reed, why? Why are you all looking at me? I don't know what's happening either. I certainly can't perform, and others certainly can't either. Could the system be mistaken this time? System, real eunuchs naturally can't perform, but the person Concubine Rose found was a fake eunuch. Lily was shocked. What? A fake eunuch? Emperor Ming drew in a sharp breath. What? You mean there's a fake eunuch in my harem? He couldn't believe such an earth-shaking event was happening right under his nose. The ministers were also so frightened they held their breath and dared not make a sound. System, that's right. Speaking of this fake eunuch, there's also a connection to Eunuch Reed beside His Majesty. Everyone looked suspiciously at Eunuch Reed again. What's this about? Eunuch Reed is connected to a fake eunuch. Eunuch Reed nearly broke down in tears. What's wrong with the system today? Usually it's very reliable when speaking, why is it talking nonsense today? How could I possibly be involved with a fake eunuch? Emperor Ming's expression darkened, not saying a word, but his heart felt like it might explode. Lily was also stunned by this major gossip. From what she knew, the selection of eunuchs in the palace was extremely strict, especially the castration process, to prevent harem chaos and ensure the purity of the imperial bloodline. She thought for a moment and asked, could it be that Eunuch Reed was bribed by Concubine Rose to help her get around the system and bring in a fake eunuchs? As soon as these words were spoken, Eunuch Reed nearly collapsed on the spot. Little Miss Chen, before you open your mouth to speak, could you investigate clearly first? How could this old servant dare to bear such charges? Eunuch Reed hurriedly whispered his defense to Emperor Ming. Your Majesty, please see clearly, this old servant truly knows nothing about this matter. Fortunately, the system spoke up to explain. No, that's not it. Eunuch Reed remains very loyal to His Majesty. He wouldn't risk losing his head for a little profit by helping Concubine Rose do such things. Hearing the system's explanation, Eunuch Reed was so moved he nearly shed tears. But could you two please stop giving this old man heart attacks when you talk? This old can't take it. Lily System, stop beating around the bush and tell us clearly what exactly happened. System, here's what happened. That person was originally Concubine Rose's childhood sweetheart, named Shane Miller. After Concubine Rose entered the palace, the two were separated. Later, Shane Miller's family suddenly encountered disaster. Both parents died. The household fell into decline, leaving him wandering the streets with nowhere to turn. This year, when Concubine Rose left the palace to visit her family, she encountered him by chance. The two quickly rekindled their old romance. Concubine Rose then conceived the idea of bringing him into the palace so they could be together forever while also satisfying her own desires. At that time, Shane Miller was already homeless, unable even to afford 3 meals a day, constantly facing the possibility of starvation or freezing to death. So when Concubine Rose proposed this idea, he agreed without hesitation. Emperor Ming's expression had become extremely ugly by this point. Concubine Rose was so audacious, daring to secretly communicate with another man and even bring him into the palace. How dare she? Lily, but still, that's a living person. How could Concubine Rose bring a living person into the palace in broad daylight before so many eyes? Even if she could get him in, such a big target, where could she hide him? This isn't a matter of just a day or two, no matter where she hid him, he'd be discovered sooner or later. Also, what's the connection between this person and that fake eunuch? Everyone in court listened intently. Lily's questions were exactly what they couldn't understand. But to avoid making Lily suspicious, they outwardly continued pretending to discuss state affairs, though their voices unconsciously became several tones quieter. Emperor Ming also had no mind for court politics at this moment. This was a major matter concerning his harem, he just wanted to quickly get to the bottom of it. The system continued. Well, to bring someone into the Imperial Palace, Concubine Rose indeed went to great lengths. She first hid him under the carriage she rode in, then waited until near dusk before entering the palace. Not only that, she also deliberately bought several gifts for the guards checking at the palace gates, thus managing to deceive them and succeed. Lily. So the security system for Imperial Palace entry and exit still has major loopholes. Commander Song of the Imperial Guard broke out in a cold sweat upon hearing this. Guarding the Forbidden Palace was the Imperial Guard's responsibility. Now such an outrageous incident had occurred under his management, he probably couldn't escape punishment. The system continued. You're not wrong about that. Concubine Rose secretly brought someone into the palace, but temporarily couldn't find a suitable place to hide him, so she temporarily hid him in her own chambers. Lily, this Concubine Rose really has nerves of steel. Wasn't she afraid of being discovered? System, Concubine Rose was naturally reclusive by nature. Apart from His Majesty visiting once or twice a month, hardly anyone came to her chambers. But there was one time when she almost got exposed, and the person who discovered it was none other than your emperor himself. Lily, really? How exciting. System, tell me the details quickly. This kind of secret affair gossip is truly the most thrilling. Lily immediately became interested and hurriedly urged the system on. The story goes like this: initially, when Concubine Rose was hiding someone in the palace, she lived in constant fear of discovery every day, not daring to be too bold. Although Emperor Ming only visited once or twice a month, the timing wasn't fixed. She was afraid that if His Majesty suddenly visited and caught them red-handed, that would be a capital offense. So before late at night, she would always hide Shane Miller very carefully, only daring to let him out for intimacy when the night was deep and quiet. But as time passed, Shane Miller began to grow dissatisfied. Hiding for a day or two was fine, but doing this indefinitely was unbearable. So, Concubine Rose thought of a solution. She secretly bribed a young eunuch close to His Majesty to inform her in advance whenever His Majesty planned to visit, so she could prepare in time. That little eunuch thought Concubine Rose was trying to compete for favor, deliberately dressing up beautifully before His Majesty's arrival to win his heart. Such things weren't uncommon in the palace, so he didn't suspect anything. Moreover, this task wasn't difficult for him and came with benefits, so he agreed. Initially, even with the little eunuch's reports, Concubine Rose remained cautious and didn't dare be too reckless, only occasionally letting Shane Miller out during the day. But gradually, when no mishaps occurred, both of their courage grew. Whenever the little eunuch didn't send word, they would indulge freely. But if you walk at night too often, you're bound to meet ghosts eventually. Once, His Majesty originally intended to visit the Empress's chambers, but when passing by Concubine Rose's palace, he suddenly remembered it had been a long time since he'd visited her and decided to drop in. Master, can you guess what those two were doing at that moment? At this point, Emperor Ming had clenched his fists so tightly they creaked, while Eunuch Reed standing beside him held his breath, not daring to make a sound. The ghostly encounter the system mentioned, Emperor Ming still remembered clearly. That time when he went to Concubine Rose's place, she was sleeping, and he noticed her complexion was somewhat strange. Her cheeks were flushed red, and she seemed very tense. You were even surprised why she was sleeping so early. Concubine Rose only said that recently she hadn't been sleeping well. Her spirits were low, so she went to bed early. She also said she was worried and flustered about being late to receive His Majesty, appearing frightened and uneasy. At that time, you truly believed her words. Now hearing the system recount this, thinking about Concubine Rose's complexion then, could it be that right at that moment she was doing shameful things with that scoundrel? Thinking of this, Emperor Ming's fists clenched even tighter. His mind felt like it might explode, his blood boiling. He was afraid he couldn't control himself and would immediately draw his sword to rush to the harem and kill that wretch. Even so, Emperor Ming tried to calm himself. He must stay calm, stay calm. He was an emperor but also a wise ruler. Even if he wanted to punish someone, it had to be done clearly and transparently. Hadn't the system just mentioned something about a fake eunuch? He wanted to hear more details about what other filthy affairs were happening in his palace that he didn't know about. Lily was listening with fascination, her eyes sparkling, unable to help asking. So Concubine Rose and her lover were engaged in passionate intimacy at that very moment. The system also answered excitedly, "Congratulations, you guessed correctly." Because His Majesty arrived unexpectedly, that little eunuch didn't have time to report in advance. Fortunately, a palace maid standing outside the door was quick-witted and sharp-eyed, rushing in to report, barely avoiding being caught red-handed by His Majesty. Even so, time was too short. That man didn't have time to dress and crawled naked like a silkworm into Concubine Rose's wardrobe, while Concubine Rose only had time to throw on an undergarment and lie on the bed pretending to sleep soundly. Good heavens, how thrilling. My heart is pounding just hearing about it. So does everyone in Concubine Rose's palace know about her affair? System, how could that be? This is a capital offense. How would Concubine Rose dare let others know? Besides her and Shane Miller, only two close palace maids, Hannah and Daisy, knew about it. The person who just ran in to report was Hannah. Lilium, it seems this Concubine Rose has quite strong nerves. If it were an ordinary person, they'd probably have wet themselves from fear. But she had just finished having fun with Shane Miller, surely there must have some telltale signs left behind. Like flushed cheeks, rapid breathing, a limp body, and such. Couldn't His Majesty notice anything unusual? The ministers secretly glanced at Lily, then at Lord Chen. Although they were also curious about the question she raised, they couldn't help but be amazed. Where exactly did a young lady like Lily hear about such things? How could she be so knowledgeable about matters between men and women? Looking at her serious, questioning manner, she showed not a trace of the bashfulness expected of a proper young lady. Was this really the refined young miss raised by Lord Chen? Lord Chen, don't look at me. I also want to know how a well-behaved young lady turned out like this. Although the ministers were shocked, they were still eager for gossip, and everyone listened intently at this moment. The system answered. Of course there were signs, but Concubine Rose only said that recently she hadn't been resting well and wasn't feeling healthy, so she went to bed early. Now that His Majesty had unexpectedly arrived, she was afraid of being improper and felt panicked and worried inside. His Majesty saw that Concubine Rose's face was indeed flushed red, her expression panicked, and moreover, her rosy complexion clearly showed fatigue. He blamed himself for being busy with court affairs recently, neglecting Concubine Rose and not caring for her enough. Afterward, he not only bestowed countless jewels upon Concubine Rose, but His Majesty also specially summoned the Imperial physician to take her pulse and prescribe several doses of tonic medicine to nourish her body. But little did he know, that flush on Concubine Rose's face wasn't from worry and fear. As for the so-called fatigue hump, Concubine Rose had been battling with her lover for over 10 rounds every night recently. It would be strange if she wasn't tired. The ministers, truly unexpected. Concubine Rose normally appears gentle and virtuous. Who would have thought she was so promiscuous behind the scenes? But at this moment, none dared to raise their heads to look at Emperor Ming's expression, only secretly sympathizing with their emperor. Emperor Ming was so wise and capable, yet a lush green meadow had grown on his head. He'd been thoroughly cuckolded. Concubine Rose's father, Minister Howard, nearly fainted. Fortunately, 2 guards beside him quickly supported him, or he would have collapsed right there. Emperor Ming was now trembling with rage, grinding his teeth. He had thought Concubine Rose was pitiable, always believing she was different from the other concubines. In front of him, she was always obedient and understanding, never competing for favor or showing jealousy. It turned out she had long been fed elsewhere. Even gorged to the point of bursting, how could she still care about him? Lily was gaping in amazement. Good heavens, over 10 rounds every night, this Concubine Rose is truly talented. Oh right, system, hurry up and tell me about the fake eunuch story. System, here's what happened. After nearly being caught by His Majesty this time, Concubine Rose and Shane Miller were scared out of their wits. Shane Miller, from hiding naked in the wardrobe too long, even caught a cold and fell ill. Afterward, the two discussed and realized they couldn't continue like this, so they devised a plan. They decided to have Shane Miller disguise himself as a eunuch. This way, he could openly come and go during the day, easily deceive everyone, and facilitate their secret meetings. Although their time together might be reduced, this was the best solution at the moment. Lily wondered, but if he disguises himself as a eunuch, wouldn't anyone be suspicious of a new person suddenly appearing in the palace? Everyone was equally puzzled. That's right, disguising as a eunuch is easier said than done. The palace guards are extremely strict, and eunuch management is also very tight. There's almost daily roll call and inspections. How could Concubine Rose possibly get away with it? Eunuch Reed was also secretly amazed. He knew every eunuch in the palace like the back of his hand. If there were someone new, he couldn't possibly not know. But these past few days, he hadn't seen any face that. The system mysteriously said, "Host, have you heard of the art of disguise?" Lily, I've heard of disguise arts, but what does this have to do with anything? System, very relevant. Shane Miller, when he was wandering the streets before, once learned the art of disguise from an old beggar. At that time, he learned it for theft without being detected. But now they decided to use this technique to completely change his identity. Concubine Rose first selected a eunuch in the palace with a similar build to Shane Miller. Shane Miller disguised himself based on that eunuch's appearance, then the two secretly killed that eunuch. From then on, Shane Miller completely took over the identity of that poor eunuch. Hearing this, Lily was so shocked her jaw dropped. Good heavens, this concubine Rose is too cruel. No matter what, it was still a human life, yet for her personal desires, she ruthlessly killed someone. System Humph, don't be fooled by concubine Rose's small and gentle exterior. In reality, her heart is extremely vicious. Otherwise, years ago she wouldn't have abandoned her childhood sweetheart for wealth and glory to wholeheartedly enter the palace. To her, what are eunuchs? They're just castrated men, not even worthy of being called people. At least not complete people. Don't be fooled by her outwardly respectful attitude toward the eunuchs. In her heart, she doesn't regard them as anything at all. The entire court was shocked after hearing this, eyes wide and mouths agape. No one expected that Concubine Rose would commit such heinous acts. Especially Emperor Ming, he prided himself on reading people like books, particularly the concubines in his harem. He always thought he knew them like the palm of his hand. Who would have thought that the person sleeping beside him was such a venomous snake, and he'd been deceived for so many years, even thinking Concubine Rose was gentle and virtuous. Eunuch Reed felt his scalp go numb, grinding his teeth in rage. Aren't eunuchs human? Aren't eunuchs' lives valuable? They too were born of parents and have relatives, friends, brothers and sisters. If they died, their parents and relatives would also suffer unbearably. Moreover, if there were other paths to take, who would willingly endure that cut? Oh, I just don't know which eunuch was silenced. How pitiful. Thank goodness it wasn't Tommy Reed. Eunuch Reed didn't even dare think, if Tommy Reed had met with misfortune, what would he do? Tommy Reed was the son of Eunuch Reed's elder brother. Since Eunuch Reed had no children, he always treated this child like his own son, loving him dearly. During his years in the palace, he'd saved up some salary. Besides sending money home to support his parents, the rest went to his brother's family. The Reed family was originally poor, and years ago he too had become a eunuch, because there was no other way to survive. Tommy Reed was the hope of the entire Reed clan, bearing the responsibility of continuing the family line. Unfortunately, heaven was unfair. In an accident, Tommy Reed was unfortunately injured in a vital area and lost the ability to father children. The child was in extreme pain, feeling his life was hopeless. He shut himself indoors all day, even refusing to eat. The family had no other options. After careful discussion, they finally decided to send him to the palace to follow Eunuch Reed. Thanks to this, Tommy Reed found meaning in life again. At this moment, Lily had regained her composure and continued asking, "But system, you still haven't said how that fake eunuch Shane Miller is related to Eunuch Reed." Eunuch Reed's heart suddenly leaped to his throat, an ominous premonition rising, but he still tried to suppress it and comfort himself. No way, no way. I visit Tommy Reed every day, my own nephew, how could I not recognize him? I'm definitely overthinking this. System host, you don't know, that murdered eunuch was none other than Eunuch Reed's nephew, called Tommy Reed. Before the system finished speaking, Eunuch Reed felt his head buzzing, the world spinning, nearly collapsing. Fortunately, the guards beside him were prepared and quickly caught him, preventing him from falling flat on his face. Concubine Rose, oh Concubine Rose, how could you? How could you do something so cruel? My Tommy Reed, he was only 15 years old. At this moment, Emperor Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He was furious now. Damn it, truly damnable. Putting a green hat on my head, and right under my nose, murdering people. Do you really think I'm a fool? Emperor Ming wasn't a soft persimmon for others to squeeze as they pleased. He gritted his teeth and spoke almost word by word to the nearly devastated Eunuch Reed. Rest assured, you've served me for so many years, I will definitely seek justice for you. Eunuch Reed immediately burst into tears, his aged face full of wrinkles now soaked with tears, in unbearable pain. The ministers below had grave expressions, none daring to breathe heavily, afraid of saying the wrong thing and being implicated. Minister Howard hung his head low. With such events occurring, he was mentally prepared for the worst. Even if His Majesty took his life now, he wouldn't complain. Who told the Howard family to raise such a shameless daughter with such a vicious heart? Today's shocking story left Emperor Ming in no mood to continue the morning court session. Eunuch Reed was the same, but he still suppressed the pain in his heart and called out, "If there are memorials to present them, if not, court is dismissed." At this moment, even if the ministers had business, they didn't dare speak up, everyone obediently remained silent. Only Lily was still carefreely enjoying her shocking story, completely unaware that the tale just told had caused an uproar throughout the court. Especially Emperor Ming and Eunuch Reed, both their expressions were extremely ugly at this moment, wishing they could immediately return to the harem to deal with that pair of adulterers. Seeing Emperor Ming being escorted away by guards, preparing to leave court, the ministers also began filing out. Suddenly, Lily stepped forward. Lord Chen was scared out of his wits and hurried to pull her back, but Lily had already approached Emperor Ming and formally bowed. Lord Chen broke out in a cold sweat, silently crying out, "You little ancestor, what are you planning to do now?" Emperor Ming suddenly saw Lily, his heart in turmoil. Ho! Today it was this little rascal who had exposed his embarrassing affairs in front of all the civil and military officials, but unfortunately, he was the one who had summoned her. Who could he blame now? He forced himself to suppress his anger and ask, "What do you want with me?" Lily swallowed and finally mustered all her courage to say, "Your Majesty, have you perhaps to issue my salary?" System host, you really dare ask His Majesty for your salary? I thought you were just joking. Why wouldn't I dare? I get up before dawn every day and work hard to come to court, surely I'm not working for free. Moreover, it was clearly His Majesty who ordered me to come work, not something I volunteered for. Now I'm asking for my wages. Isn't this reasonable and proper, according to law and protocol? Just because he's the emperor doesn't mean he can default on my salary, right? Lord Chen, Lily, exactly how many heads do you have? You just finished gossiping about His Majesty in front of all the civil and military officials, and now you dare demand your salary. Could you please be a bit more considerate? Can't you see His Majesty's face is already black as the bottom of a pot? The ministers who were about to leave heard this and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for Lily. This little Miss Chen truly had nerves of steel. They just wondered if they'd still get to hear her shocking stories tomorrow. Emperor Ming gritted his teeth tightly, looking as if he might explode at any moment. You exposed my big scandal, making me a laughingstock in front of all the civil and military officials, and now you act like nothing happened and come to demand I pay your salary. Even Eunuch Reed was sweating coldly for Lily. Honestly, if it weren't for Lily's inner voice today, he still wouldn't know his nephew had been murdered, while he himself continued to kindly inquire after that cold-blooded killer every day. Therefore, he was truly grateful to Lily, and didn't wish for her to come to any harm. Just then, the person and System continued their conversation. System host, what you say does make sense, but why do I feel like your emperor doesn't seem very happy? He won't blame you for this, will he? Lily, how could that be? Our emperor has always been reasonable and understanding. How could he blame me over such a small matter? Emperor Ming, you're really smooth-tongued. You just slapped me, and now you're offering a sweet apple, aren't you? If you say that and I get angry and punish you, wouldn't I become unreasonable? But at this moment, he was eager to rush to the harem to deal with Concubine Rose's affairs and had no time to entangle with Lily. Therefore, he said, rest assured, I haven't sunk so low as to owe salaries to court officials. It's just that I currently have urgent matters to handle. We'll discuss salary matters later. Lord Chen, Eunuch Reed, and the ministers finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, His Majesty was magnanimous and didn't quibble with Lily. Lily, System, why does this feel like going to collect a debt only to have the other party make excuses to dodge payment? His Majesty isn't planning to default on my wages, is he? I heard our emperor is somewhat stingy. You're not trying to exploit my labor and use me for free without pay, are you? Emperor Ming, the ministers, Lord Chen, you're absolutely determined to bang your head against iron until you test how hard your skull is, aren't you? System, definitely not. His Majesty probably really does have urgent matters to handle. From what I know, although your emperor is somewhat stingy with himself, he has never delayed any official's salary by even a single coin over all these years. Not only that, to ensure newly appointed officials have spending money, he even breaks precedent by allowing advance payment of half a month's salary, helping officials in difficult circumstances receive family support money promptly. The ministers below all nodded in agreement. On this point, His Majesty truly did very well, looking across neighboring countries. Which ruler cared for the people while also being so considerate of officials like their Emperor Ming? Seeing Emperor Ming's expression finally soften somewhat, Lord Chen also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this system compensated a little for Lily, otherwise, today Lily might truly have faced great disaster. Lily respectfully bowed. Then your majesty should attend to urgent matters first, this subject takes leave. Just as Emperor Ming turned around, a clear voice rang out from behind in her heart. If that's the case, I'm not unreasonable either. I'll generously give him a few more days, but if he still doesn't pay me, I'll definitely come back to collect. Emperor Ming nearly jumped, thinking, control yourself, must control yourself, absolutely must control yourself. Lily was completely oblivious and happily walked on her short legs to Lord Chen. Father, did you hear? His Majesty just said he'll pay my salary. If Mother doesn't believe it, you have to testify for me. Lord Chen, are you feeling hot, father? It's so cold, yet why is your forehead and neck sweating? Wipe it off before you catch cold. She then rummaged in her small pouch and took out the piece of cloth originally intended for gagging herself, offering it to Lord Chen. Lord Chen accepted the handkerchief, feeling a touch of warmth in his heart. He had to admit that although this daughter often gave people headaches, she was sometimes very considerate of others. Lily's system, what's wrong with my father? Could he have kidney problems? The ministers, who hadn't gone far yet, nearly burst out laughing. But they still tried to suppress themselves from laughing out loud. Someone couldn't help teasing. Lord Chen, having such a considerate daughter, you truly are greatly blessed. Lord Chen, why do I suddenly feel an itch in my hands and want to hit someone? System, your father was probably scared by your actions just now. After all, throughout history, there haven't been many who dared openly demand salary from the emperor. Lily, so that's how it is. But facts prove that one must fight for one's rightful interests. Look, I just went to demand payment from His Majesty. Didn't I come away without losing any skin? The system nodded. Host, you're absolutely right, I support you. Lord Chen, you didn't lose any skin, you just nearly lost your life. Having received the emperor's promise, Lily happily climbed into the carriage to go home. But Emperor Ming here wasn't in such a good mood. He immediately led people straight to Concubine Rose's palace. Outside Concubine Rose's palace, a palace maid suddenly spotted Emperor Ming, her expression immediately changing as she turned to report inside. Eunuch Reed quickly glanced and signaled to the guards beside him. Two guards immediately stepped forward to restrain the palace maid. The palace maid wanted to speak but was gagged tight, unable to utter a word. Master Reed glanced over and recognized her as Hannah, Concubine Rose's close attendant. He lowered his voice threateningly. Everyone stay silent. Anyone who dares make a sound will lose their worthless life immediately. The other palace maids turned deathly pale, not knowing what was happening, and fearfully prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to breathe a word. Emperor Ming shuddered slightly, feeling a chill run down his spine. Why did this scene look exactly like last time? Could that wretched woman be inside doing filthy things with that adulterer again? Emperor Ming continued forward, seeing only the main palace doors tightly shut, with not even a single palace maid stationed outside to announce visitors. Emperor Ming was so furious that blood rushed to his head. Just as he was about to push the doors open and storm in, his ears twitched slightly. There were sounds coming from inside. Emperor Ming frowned deeply, hearing faint, suggestive moaning sounds drifting from within the room. This was followed by some muffled conversation. Little treasure, how was my performance just now? Are you satisfied? How do I compare to that old man? How could that old fool possibly match me? The voice carried heavy breathing. Little vixen, this is how it should be. Do you want to go again? Emperor Ming's guards following behind held their breath, not daring to make a sound, screaming internally. Dear heavens, why did they have to witness this hellish scene? Crash. A palace maid carrying a basin of water was approaching, preparing to help Concubine Rose wash later. Unexpectedly, upon seeing the emperor standing majestically at the door with his entourage, she panicked and dropped the bronze basin to the ground. The sound of the basin hitting the floor rang out piercingly, water splashing everywhere, nearly spilling completely across the floor. Your Majesty. The palace maid cried out, so frightened she collapsed, trembling as she kowtowed. Your Majesty, please forgive this servant's crime. This worthless servant couldn't hold the basin properly and disturbed Your Majesty. Please have mercy. Whether intentional or not, the palace maid's voice seemed deliberately raised several notches. Master Reed glanced over and whispered in Emperor Ming's ear, "Your Majesty, this person is one of Concubine Rose's 2 close attendants, named Daisy." Daisy didn't dare raise her head, continuing to reporting to Your Majesty. Concubine Rose has been unwell recently, often having nightmares in the middle of the night. She just broke out in cold sweat from being frightened, and this servant was about to fetch water to wipe her down. Before she could finish speaking, Emperor Ming had already kicked the doors open furiously and strode in. His expression was cold as ice, like a layer of frost had settled over him, looking terrifyingly fearsome. "You scoundrels, how dare you deceive me? Who gave you such audacity?" Master Reed angrily kicked the palace maid in the stomach, then followed the emperor inside. As soon as he entered the room, Emperor Ming's gaze immediately fixed on the bed, his eyes sharp and cold as if ready to kill. Concubine Rose hurriedly crawled up from the bed, her cheeks flushed red, her clothing still disheveled. Despite this, she tried to maintain her composure. "Your Majesty, aren't you supposed to be holding court at this hour? Why have you suddenly graced us with your presence?" Concubine Rose struggled to keep her voice gentle and soft as she inquired. She quickly threw on her outer robe and stood to perform the proper greeting. Emperor Ming said not a word, walking straight toward the wardrobe. Seeing the emperor approaching the wardrobe, Concubine Rose panicked and hurriedly grabbed his sleeve. Emperor Ming shook her hand away, not bothering to look at her even once, his eyes focused solely on the wardrobe. "Guards, open the wardrobe for me." The 2 guards immediately stepped forward and yanked the wardrobe doors open. A completely naked man stood there, his face terrified, both hands covering his private parts, with some kind of liquid seemingly dripping down. Master Reed took just one glance and recognized the man's face. It indeed looked exactly like his nephew Tommy Reed, but this man was not Tommy Reed. Tommy Reed had a large red birthmark on his arm. Lily's system had spoken correctly. This could only be Shane Miller. "You scoundrel, how dare you keep an adulterer in the palace?" Emperor Ming ground his teeth, turned around, and delivered a hard slap across Concubine Rose's face. The slap was so forceful, it caused blood to trickle from the corner of her mouth. Concubine Rose was so frightened her face turned deathly pale as she collapsed to the ground. Your Majesty, spare my life. This concubine is not keeping an adulterer. That person. This concubine doesn't know when he crawled into the wardrobe." Concubine Rose knelt on the cold floor, her body trembling, whether from fear or cold was unclear. But she had only one thought in her mind: the emperor hadn't caught them in the actual act, so she absolutely must not confess. Once she admitted it, her life would be over. As an imperial concubine, how could the emperor possibly forgive someone who dared to cuckold him? Emperor Ming kicked Concubine Rose in the chest. "You shameless wretch. Still dare to deny it at this point." His eyes were bloodshot, looking terrifyingly fierce. Though he had already heard Lily reveal Concubine Rose's affair, hearing about it was one thing, witnessing it with his own eyes was another matter entirely. "This concubine has been wronged. This concubine doesn't know this person. This concubine has been completely devoted to Your Majesty. How could I dare betray Your Majesty?" Concubine Rose clutched her chest, sweating from pain, but her mouth remained tightly shut, absolutely refusing to admit anything. "Won't shed tears until you see the coffin, eh?" Emperor Ming laughed coldly. "Fine, very well. Today I will make you completely convinced. Guards, drag that man out here." Emperor Ming flicked his sleeves and sat down in the central chair, his aura cold and terrifying, oppressing everyone in the room until they could barely breathe. The man was dragged out from the wardrobe by 2 guards and forced to kneel. Master Reed ground his teeth and delivered a hard kick to the man. He collapsed, his entire body shaking like a wet dog, clearly terrified to the extreme. His head was bowed low, repeatedly banging against the ground, not daring to look up at the emperor, mumbling, "Your Majesty, spare my life. Your Majesty, spare my life. You scoundrel! Who gave you the audacity to touch my woman? Did Concubine Rose threaten you? Tell me. If this servant didn't comply with her, she said she would take this servant's life. This servant truly had no other choice. You're lying. I don't know you at all. Your Majesty, someone must be deliberately framing this concubine by secretly hiding this person here. Please investigate clearly, Your Majesty." Concubine Rose bit her teeth, putting on an appearance of being completely wronged. "Both of you shut up." Emperor Ming had lost all patience listening to these 2 perform their act. "Wards, Bring Concubine Rose's close attendants here. Yes, Your Majesty. The two guards responded in unison. In no time they had dragged two palace maids into the room. Thud. Both palace maids collapsed in fear, continuously begging for mercy. Your Majesty, spare our lives. Your Majesty, spare our lives. Listen carefully, both of you, if you want to live, tell me everything you know. I'm only giving you one chance. The two palace maids kept their heads bowed, neither daring to speak. Emperor Ming erupted in anger. What? No one wants to talk, guards. Drag them out and beat them to death. This servant will confess. This servant will confess. This person was secretly brought into the palace by Concubine Rose from outside. Concubine Rose has always secretly kept him in the palace, and his identity is also fake. He and Concubine Rose killed Tommy Reed together, then impersonated Tommy Reed. The materials for making the fake mask on his face were also purchased outside the palace by Concubine Rose's orders. Here is the paper Concubine Rose wrote for this servant, clearly listing what needed to be bought. And here, these are poems they wrote together when they were alone. Daisy's voice trembled, but she still revealed everything she knew, word by word. At the same time, she pulled out a stack of papers from her sleeve. Master Reed, hearing that Tommy Reed had been murdered, clenched his hands into fists, grinding his teeth. You, how dare you secretly hide these things? What are your intentions? Concubine Rose bit her teeth until her gums bled, her eyes looking ready to kill. To avoid leaving evidence, she had previously ordered Daisy to secretly burn all these items. How could she have known that her trusted attendant would secretly keep them, and even betray her at this crucial moment? Daisy kept her head down, not daring to look directly at Concubine Rose. She hadn't wanted to betray her mistress. Keeping these items was just for self-protection. If the matter was ever exposed, she could use them to save her own life. She had learned this from a young eunuch who once told her that the Northern Dynasty had laws. Those who honestly confessed would be treated leniently, while those who stubbornly resisted would be severely punished. The Emperor of the Northern Dynasty was naturally benevolent. If she could make a contribution at the crucial moment, perhaps she would be forgiven. Daisy couldn't stop Concubine Rose from acting recklessly, so this was her only way to protect herself. She had no choice, she had to survive, because back home there was an entire family of old and young depending on her small salary to live. She couldn't die. Shut up! Emperor Ming ground his teeth and shouted. Master Reed took the stack of papers and presented them to Emperor Ming. With just a glance, he immediately recognized Concubine Rose's handwriting. There was no mistaking it. Good, very good, truly excellent. The Emperor angrily threw the love letters directly at Concubine Rose's head. The papers scattered across the floor. The atmosphere in the hall became suffocatingly tense, and everyone bowed their heads, not daring to breathe a word. Even Concubine Rose was too frightened to speak up. Some were even so scared they wet themselves. No, wait, that person wasn't even wearing pants, completely naked, with urine flowing straight onto the floor. You worthless slut. No wonder you never competed for favor, always acting so pure and above worldly concerns. Turns out you dare to secretly keep a man in the palace. How dare you? How dare you do such a thing? Emperor Ming was so angry his face turned purple. Master Reed, I order you to beat them severely. Emperor Ming was clearly so furious his eyes had turned red, wishing he could execute this pair of adulterers on the spot. But Master Reed was his most trusted confidant, always completely loyal. Knowing he had just lost his closest relative and was in agony, the Emperor let him vent his anger first. Master Reed immediately grabbed a rod and began beating Concubine Rose and Shane Miller relentlessly. He used almost all his strength, each blow heavier than the last, as if trying to release all his resentment. He truly hated them to the bone. He was already over 50, with more than half his life behind him. Tommy Reed had been his only hope and support, yet Concubine Rose and Shane Miller had heartlessly killed him. He would rather they had killed him instead. What did you do with him? Where did you hide Tommy Reed? Your Majesty, have mercy. Master Reed, please show mercy. I'll tell. He was thrown into the dry well in the back courtyard. Hearing this, Master Reed's hands began to shake. The rod fell to the ground. Emperor Ming gestured with his hand, and Master Reed quickly knelt in gratitude before rushing out with tears streaming down his face. Emperor Ming's veins bulged on his forehead, his eyes bloodshot. Guards, drag this pair of adulterers outside and beat them to death with rods. Hand over all other accomplices to the Justice Department. While Emperor Ming was unleashing his great purge, Lily returned home cheerfully, in high spirits. Mother, today I asked His Majesty for my salary, and he promised to give it to me in a few days. When the time comes, remember to give me the money. As soon as she entered the door, Lily happily reported today's achievements to Lady Chen. What did you say? Lady Chen was drinking tea and nearly spat it all out. Yesterday she had only made a joke and had almost forgotten about it. She never expected Lily to take it seriously and actually dare to ask the Emperor for money. Her audacity was truly sky-high. I said I asked His Majesty for money, and he already agreed. I won't talk to you anymore. I've been standing all morning and really need to use the bathroom. If you don't believe me, ask father. After saying this, she ran like the wind toward the outhouse. Oh my child, slow down. Be careful not to fall. Watching Lily's manner, Lady Chen sighed deeply. Good heavens, what ladylike demeanor. I don't see any at all. Wait, did Lily really dare to ask His Majesty for salary money? Lady Chen quickly turned to Lord Chen and asked urgently. Lord Chen sighed heavily. What do you think? That heartless child nearly scared me to death. Recalling what happened at court today, Lord Chen still felt chills down his spine. What happened? Did His Majesty get angry about this? It's really hard to explain. Lord Chen briefly recounted what had occurred at court today to Lady Chen. After hearing it, Lady Chen's face went from red to white, from white to black, and finally she broke out in cold sweat from fear. Dear heavens, I wasn't even there, but just hearing about it makes me sweat profusely. Thank goodness our Emperor is magnanimous, otherwise our Lily might have died several times over by now. You're absolutely right, and this matter must never be leaked to outsiders. Lord Chen put on a mysterious expression. I know. I'm not stupid. A man's dignity comes before everything else, let alone the Emperor's dignity. I understand. What are you two talking about so mysteriously? Lily came running over happily after taking care of her business. Oh, it's nothing. Father already told Mother about your situation. That's right. But next time you absolutely cannot ask the Emperor for money again, understand? If you want spending money, Mother will give it to you. Is that acceptable? Lily still had some doubts. System, why is my mother suddenly being so generous? I even prepared a backup plan. What do you mean I'm stingy now? Lady Chen protested. System, it's probably because no one in the Northern Dynasty has ever dared to openly ask the Emperor for salary before. Your mother must be worried about your safety. Lily, I see. I think His Majesty is very nice though. As long as you don't act like those ministers who don't know their place and anger him. He's actually quite gentle and easy to talk to. I really don't understand why everyone is so afraid of him. Let it go. I won't think about it anymore. At least I got the money. System, later I'll take you out to eat delicious food on the street. Oh wait, I forgot you can't eat. What a pity. Lord Chen and Lady Chen thought to themselves, you really have nerves of steel. That's Emperor Ming, the most outstanding emperor in Northern Dynasty history, and you dare call him gentle and easy to talk to. After getting the money, Lily immediately ran out happily to the streets. Today Lord Chen was busy with work, so he sent several hidden guards to secretly follow and protect her. Soon, one person and one system had reached the streets. The streets were filled with countless delicious foods. Lily looked at everything with desire, wishing she could try a bit of each dish. In no time, her belly was round and full. Host, don't just focus on eating by yourself. You've had your fill, but I'm still hungry here. Hurry up and take me to eat some gossip. I need to accumulate energy. System, why are you hungry again? Didn't you just eat a big piece of gossip about His Majesty this morning at court? I'm still a young system. Getting hungry quickly is normal. Besides, didn't you also eat a lot this morning? You're still stuffing your face now. Fine, I'll take you to eat gossip now. Quick, check if there's any big gossip nearby. System, no need to check. While you were busy eating, I already found some. Duke Sterling's manor has big gossip. The third young lady of Duke Sterling's family recently fell for a scholar, and the two are now secretly dating. Lily's eyes lit up with excitement. What are we waiting for? Let's go quickly. After eating until her belly was completely round, Lily waddled toward Duke Sterling's manor with her distinctive swaying gait. With such a unique figure and ostentatious walking style, she was quickly recognized by people. After all, which young lady from any family would be so unconcerned about her image? Seeing the barely concealed excitement on little Lady Chen's face, everyone could smell the strong scent of juicy gossip. So people began secretly and quietly following behind her in a chain. In just a short while, a large crowd had gathered behind Lily. The mighty procession whispered and murmured as they wove through the main street. Before long, they had reached the back gate of Duke Sterling's manor. Looking at the towering wall of the back courtyard, then glancing down at her own short legs, Lily felt somewhat troubled. System, I can still climb trees, but how am I supposed to climb such a high wall? You need to think of a way to help me. System host. Don't worry, let me search for a moment. The crowd following behind immediately perked up their ears to listen. System found it. Go about 5 steps to the left, there's an excellent gossip listening spot there. Lily, great, let's go quickly. The entire crowd immediately followed behind her in a line. After a few steps, a somewhat dilapidated dog hole appeared before them. Lily's expression became slightly complex. This is the excellent gossip listening spot you mentioned. System, that's right, this is the place. You just need to stick your head into this dog hole, and everything inside will be clear as daylight. Lily, system, are you serious? You want me to crawl through a dog hole? Lily was at least a 9th rank official personally appointed by His Majesty. How could she possibly crawl through a dog hole? The crowd behind her nodded repeatedly. That's right, how could little Lady Chen possibly crawl through a dog hole? System, are you really not gonna crawl through? Lily, no way, absolutely not. Even if you beat me to death, I won't crawl through. System, think of another way. System. Then it's either crawl through the dog hole or climb the wall. Lily looked up at the wall that was several times her height and sighed deeply. Then she bent down and lay flat on the ground, skillfully sticking her head in, until her entire head had disappeared inside. Who was it that just swore they would rather die than crawl through a dog hole? Moreover, looking at your practiced movements, this doesn't seem like your first time. You look like an experienced hand. Lily, young ladies know how to adapt for important matters. What's embarrassing about that? The crowd thought this made sense. If little Lady Chen could crawl through a dog hole for the sake of gossip, then them climbing the wall shouldn't be too big a deal, right? So the whole group began showing off their athletic skills. The nimble ones had already climbed up the high wall, perching on it one by one like a row of toads clinging tightly to the wall. Those who were less capable, despite using all their strength, still couldn't climb up. They stamped their feet in frustration but were unwilling to leave. With no other choice, they had to secretly stick close to Lily and wait to hear her live broadcast. At this moment, in the back courtyard of Duke Sterling's manor, Ryan, why are you only arriving now? Claire Sterling was crying like a pear blossom in the rain, her heart full of grievance. Claire, it's all my fault, I'm useless for making you suffer. The scholar gently wiped away the tears on Claire Sterling's cheeks. But don't I want to see you every day, to be with you morning and night? Claire, do you know? I haven't seen you for several days. I can't eat or drink, thinking of nothing but you. If I still can't see you, I fear I'll go mad. The scholar looked at Claire Sterling with eyes full of affection. Ryan, it's my fault for not being able to convince father to let us be together. But don't worry, give me a little more time, and I'll definitely find a way. No one can separate us. Lily was moved by what she heard. Here was another pair of tragic lovers not blessed by their families. The people clinging to the wall were also touched after hearing this. Such situations weren't uncommon in ancient times, but despite their sympathy, they weren't very optimistic about this couple's future. After all, in this era of parental authority and arranged marriages, no matter how deeply two people loved each other, if their parents disagreed, their affairs would mostly end in smoke. Meanwhile, those secretly following behind Lily pricked up their ears, feeling like ants crawling in their hearts. What tragic lovers! What exactly was going on? Little Lady Chen? Please tell us more. Suddenly Claire Sterling's ears twitched slightly. Wait, she had just heard some sound, could they have been discovered? Moreover, that sound seemed to come from the direction of the dog hole. What's wrong? The scholar noticed something unusual about Claire Sterling and hurriedly asked. Claire Sterling leaned close to the scholar's ear and whispered, Ryan, I feel like someone is spying on us. He turned back to that dog hole, where something seemed to be moving. The scholar was startled and carefully glanced over. Good heavens! Sure enough, by the dog hole, a pair of dark, glittering eyes were secretly watching in their direction. Looking up, oh my. Above the dog hole on the wall, a row of heads was lined up side by side, all staring intently at them. The scholar suddenly felt dizzy and nearly collapsed. It seemed their secret date had not only been discovered, but was being watched by a whole crowd of people. If this alarmed others in the manor, there would be big trouble. Claire Sterling lowered her voice anxiously to ask. She was also extremely anxious. If her father found out that Ryan had secretly crawled through a dog hole to meet her, he would never agree to let them be together. The scholar stroked his chin, thought for a moment, then said, I remember you once told me that your manor keeps 2 large wolves, right? Claire Sterling looked puzzled. What do you mean? The scholar nodded. Exactly, release the dogs to bite people. Claire Sterling hesitated for a moment. This doesn't seem right. Those 2 wolves are very fierce. I'm afraid they'll hurt people. The scholar was anxious. But if we don't drive these people away, how can I leave here? If your father finds out, we'll never hope to be together. Claire Sterling bit her teeth and finally agreed. She whispered a few words to a close palace maid, and the maid immediately hurried away. Lily was hiding at the dog hole, completely absorbed in watching the drama, completely unaware that danger was approaching. Hey, this scholar seems a bit short. System, what does that short guy actually look like? How could someone so short catch the eye of Duke Sterling's third young lady? Could he be some kind of stunning beauty? System, don't rush. Wait until he turns around later, and you'll know right away. Just then, 2 large wolves charged straight toward them. The gossip, watchers on the wall, sitting high up, with a good view, quickly spotted the wolves. Someone was first to notice the danger. Something's wrong. It looks like we've been discovered, run quickly. So the crowd hurriedly jumped down from the wall, scattered and ran in all directions, disappearing without a trace in no time. Those following behind Lily also saw the situation was bad and quickly turned to flee. Only Lily, in her low position, whether due to poor vision or being too absorbed in the gossip, still hadn't reacted in time. The 2 large mastiffs had simultaneously charged straight toward that dog hole. Lilia, System, are those 2 dogs? Why do they seem to be running toward us? System, oh no. Danger, host. Run quickly, it looks like we've been discovered. Lily, what? Why didn't you say so earlier? At this point Lily had no mind to blame anyone. She quickly pulled her head out of the dog hole and used her short legs to frantically run backward. The 2 large yellow dogs weren't to be outdone either, quickly squeezing through the dog hole and chasing after Lily like the wind. System, host, run faster. Those 2 dogs are about to catch up. Lily ran while looking back over her shoulder. Good heavens! She saw 2 mastiffs with wild, gleaming eyes, baring their teeth and growling, looking like they wanted to devour her alive. Lily was so scared she trembled all over and hurried to pick up speed. Dear heavens, I was just eating some gossip. Do these 2 dogs need to risk their lives like this? She used almost all her strength, feeling like she had never run so fast in this life or her previous one. Her round belly swayed up and down with her running rhythm, looking hilariously funny. After running for a while, her hair came loose too. So an extremely interesting scene appeared on the main street. A plump young lady with her bottom swaying as she huffed and puffed running ahead, with 2 mastiffs chasing relentlessly behind her, making passersby turn to look. Why is she being chased by dogs? Oh, isn't that young lady little Lady Chen? Someone recognized Lily. What, it's little Lady Chen. Why did she anger the dogs? Could it be that her gossip eating has reached even the dogs, making them furious too? That's not right. Little Chen, you're listening to a story on Bao Bao audio channel. If you find it interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to support Bao Bao in creating more exciting stories. But it's hard to say. Little Lady Chen is different from others. People can even hear her thoughts, so knowing dog language wouldn't be strange either. It's just that the current situation doesn't look good. Those 2 mastiffs are so fierce, if little Lady Chen falls into their clutches, she might not die but could be seriously injured. Some people worried about Lily but were afraid of the mastiffs and didn't dare help, so they hurried to the Chen manor to report to Lord Chen. Little Lady Chen, keep going. Some people even stood by the roadside cheering for Lily. Lily also sped up, running faster and faster, but the distance between her and the 2 dogs kept getting closer. This made sense, she only had 2 legs, and short ones at that. How could she compare to the dog's 4 legs? Seeing the 2 mastiffs about to catch up, Lily almost cried out loud. She screamed in her heart, "System, think of something quickly. I can barely run anymore." Who would have thought that a professional gossip eater like her would capsize today, and in such a spectacular fashion? The 2 teams of hidden guards secretly protecting Lily saw the mastiffs about to bite her pants and were about to intervene. But just then, the system shouted, "Host! Look to your left, there's a big tree. Climb up quickly." Like grabbing a life-saving straw, Lily immediately headed for the big tree. In just 3 moves, she had climbed up, faster than a monkey. Before anyone could see clearly, little Lady Chen had already climbed to the top of the tree. Say what you will, even a panicked pig knows how to climb trees, let alone Lily, who was an agile plump beauty. When she was young, she had climbed trees quite often and had been beaten many times for it. Who would have thought that this very skill would save her life today? At this point, the 2 yellow dogs had run to the base of the tree. They couldn't climb, so they just circled the tree a few times, barked, "Woof woof woof," at Lily in the tree, then huffily left. Seeing the dogs finally leave, Lily breathed a sigh of relief, sitting in the tree to catch her breath. Good heavens, that was so dangerous just now. I nearly ran myself to death. Seeing Lily escape disaster, everyone also breathed a sigh of relief. The hidden guards had almost drawn their swords to kill the 2 yellow dogs. Just as everyone was celebrating Lily's safety, the system suddenly cried out, "Oh no! How could I forget about this?" Lily wiped the sweat from her forehead and asked puzzledly, "What's wrong?" "System, didn't I tell you that I have a protection mechanism? When you're in danger, I just need to activate it and you won't get hurt. I forgot to turn it on." "Lily, you mean I just ran like crazy for nothing? Why didn't you say so earlier? I nearly ran myself to death." "System, I forgot. I'm really sorry." Lily ground her teeth in anger. "You clearly led me to eat gossip, forgot to warn me about the dogs coming, and then forgot to activate the protection mechanism. This damn system really wants to annoy me to death. If apologies worked, what would we need the Imperial Guard for?" The people around finally understood the system's meaning. So, little Lady Chen had a protection mechanism. As long as the system activated it, she wouldn't get hurt. So little Lady Chen's desperate running just now was useless. Haha, this system really knows how to dig holes for people. The important thing is she already ran, already climbed the tree, already got scared out of her wits. Now you tell her, might as well not say anything, it's hilarious. Seeing Lily looking angry, the system quickly flattered her. "But host, you're really amazing. I never expected your tree climbing to be so superb, even faster than a monkey." The people under the tree also chimed in. "Little Lady Chen is incredible." "That's right. Such a tall tree and little Lady Chen climbed it as easily as turning her palm. Truly worthy of being the #1 female official of the Northern Dynasty." "Amazing, amazing." Lily felt a bit smug from the praise. Just so. I only rank 3rd in the world. This tree is nothing, honestly. I've climbed trees several times taller than this tree is just drizzle to me." "System host, you just keep boasting." But having just offended her, it didn't dare say this out loud. Crack. Unfortunately, before Lily could boast a few more sentences, there was a snapping sound. The branch couldn't bear her weight and broke in half. "Ah!" With a scream, Lily fell straight down. The hidden guard saw this and rushed forward to catch her. At the same time, Lord Chen had just received the news and hurriedly ran from the manor. Seeing this scene from afar, he was so scared his legs went weak. No matter how mischievous Lily was, she was still his flesh and blood. How could he bear to let her get hurt, especially falling from such a high tree? He ran like flying to the base of the tree, with only one thought in his mind: he had to catch her. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen followed behind, so scared they nearly fainted. Some people around were so frightened they covered their eyes, not daring to look. It's over. Little Lady Chen falling from such a height, even if she doesn't die, she'll be crippled. But strangely, no one heard the expected thud. Someone curiously removed their hands and looked up. Good heavens! It turned out Lily was dangling from a tree branch. When she fell, her clothes got caught on a branch, luckily preventing her from falling further. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing Lily was safe, Lord Chen also felt relieved, but his anger suddenly flared up. He shouted up at the tree. Why don't you get down here right now? Get down here. Lily hung there swaying, trying hard to climb down. But she encountered a new problem. Her clothes seemed to be tightly caught by the branch and couldn't break free. The tree was too high, and Lord Chen couldn't see clearly from below. Seeing her not moving for a long time, he shouted anxiously, "Hurry up and come down. Are you finally feeling embarrassed? Too ashamed to come down and face people?" Looking at Lily's appearance, the people under the tree couldn't help but want to laugh, but out of respect for Lord Chen, no one dared laugh out loud, only holding it in until their faces turned red. Lily said sheepishly, "Well, father, my clothes seem to be caught by the branch and I can't get down." Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha, the world's third-ranked tree climbing master is now hanging in a tree and can't get down. Lord Chen just wanted to be silent. Embarrassing, truly embarrassing. Lily, what kind of ridiculous things do you do every day? Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen had been worried about their sister, but now seeing her hanging like a piece of clothing on a branch, they couldn't help laughing like geese. Haha, it's hilarious. They really couldn't be blamed. Lily's appearance right now was truly too funny. Looking at the people under the tree laughing their heads off, Lily felt both ashamed and angry. Humph, all you know is laugh, laugh, laugh. I'm in such a sorry state, and no one comes up to help. Don't your consciences hurt? Who would have thought that hearing her thoughts, people not only didn't stop laughing but laughed even louder. Someone even teased, "Little Lady Chen, do you need someone to come up and rescue you?" The hidden guards from the Chen manor held back their laughter until their faces turned red. After all, they were assigned by Lord Chen to protect Miss Chen, and now she was in this state, they bore some responsibility too. They tried to suppress their laughter and quietly asked, "Master, should we go up and rescue the young lady?" Lord Chen was about to nod when Lily said irritably, "I can get down myself. I don't need your help." "What's so funny? Be careful or all your teeth will fall out. Fortunately I have the system. What's there to fear about not being able to get down? You bunch of bad people. Even if you beat me to death I won't ask for help. Lord Chen, if she's so capable, let her figure it out herself." "System host, I'm afraid you're overestimating my abilities," Lily urgently pressed. "System, hurry up and think of a way to get me down." Who would have thought the system would sigh helplessly? "Host, I've really never encountered a situation like yours, so I don't know how to help." "Lily, what? Didn't you say you had a protection mechanism? Just activate it." "System host, you misunderstand. The protection mechanism is to ensure you don't get hurt, but besides not being able to get down, are you injured at all? Why don't you try struggling free from the branch? As long as you break free, even if you fall, the protection mechanism will ensure you're fine." Lily panicked. "Why didn't you say so earlier? If I could struggle free myself, would I need your help?" "System, why don't you go pray to your ancestors?" "Lily, you useless system, what do I keep you for?" "System, feeling wronged, I'm just a gossip-eating system. Besides, the protection mechanism isn't omnipotent. Who knew you'd encounter this situation?" The people under the tree laughed until tears came out. "Haha, we thought she was so capable, turns out she's done for." Just now little Lady Chen was boasting that she wouldn't ask anyone for help even if beaten to death. Let's see what she does now. Lily sighed helplessly and gritted her teeth to lower her voice. "Father, I was wrong. Please quickly send someone to rescue me. I really won't dare do this again." A young lady knows how to adapt, giving in a little to get down. What's embarrassing about that? Everyone laughed until they couldn't breathe. This is truly little Lady Chen's natural flexibility. Lord Chen just felt his head pounding like a hammer. "Is this how you admit your mistakes? I suddenly feel my hands getting itchy." Alex Chen, Jack Chen and Grace Chen all covered their faces simultaneously. "Embarrassing, too embarrassing. Master, the hidden guards don't know whether to rescue her or not. They're just standing there awkwardly." Lord Chen covered his face with one hand and waved the other slightly. If not for the crowd watching and it being too embarrassing, he really wanted to leave Lily hanging in the tree a bit longer. Otherwise this girl truly wouldn't know where she went wrong. When the hidden guards finally rescued Lily from the tree, everyone discovered her clothes had been torn in several places by the branches, making her look like she'd been chewed by dogs. Somehow, looking at Lily's miserable state, Lord Chen felt he could barely control himself. To avoid beating her in front of all these people, he grabbed her by the collar and carried her straight home. At this time, Lady Chen was at home anxiously waiting. Earlier she had heard reports that somehow Lily had angered 2 mastiffs and was being chased around like crazy, which nearly scared her to fainting. She had wanted to run out to see, but Lord Chen saw her legs were already shaking and told her to wait at home for news. Now seeing everyone return, she hurried out to meet them, but from afar she could see Lily's torn clothes. Her heart immediately sank and tears of distress flowed down. She quickly shouted, "Someone, go fetch the Imperial physician immediately." While speaking, she pulled Lily over, planning to examine her from head to toe. "Don't call the Imperial physician." Lord Chen ground his teeth angrily and quickly stopped the servants. "Madam, don't look anymore, she's fine." "Master, Lily has been bitten by dogs to this extent. No matter how big her mistake, we should wait until her wounds heal first." Before she finished speaking, Lady Chen's hand suddenly stopped. "What's this? Lily's clothes look terrible, but there isn't a single wound on her body." She looked at Lord Chen questioningly. "Master, what exactly happened?" Lord Chen said irritably. "Let her tell mother herself." Lily hung her head and mumbled inwardly. "The clothes weren't bitten by dogs, they were torn by tree branches. Didn't they say I was chased by 2 yellow dogs? How did it become torn by tree branches?" Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen laughed themselves silly and quickly explained. "Mother, Lily was indeed chased by dogs, but to escape, she climbed a tree and couldn't get down. Her clothes were torn by the tree branches." "Haha, mother, you didn't see it. Lily's appearance just now was hilarious." Lady Chen and the others, talking over each other, recounted the entire story that the hidden guards and Lord Chen had related, from crawling through dog holes, being chased by dogs, climbing trees to escape, and finally hanging from a tree unable to get down. Hearing this series of unbelievable actions, Lady Chen didn't know what to say. Just moments ago she had been heartbroken to tears, but now she just wanted her hands to itch. This hateful child. She trembled with fear, so it was because of this. A pitiful scream rang out in the courtyard. "If you don't beat someone for 3 days, they'll climb on the roof and remove tiles. If I don't beat this child for 1 day, her whole body gets itchy." Lady Chen ground her teeth angrily, picked up a small branch from the courtyard, and began whipping away. Lord Chen, afraid Lady Chen would tire herself out, quickly joined in. Alex Chen, Jack Chen, and Grace Chen silently covered their faces. "You deserve this beating." Hearing the pitiful screams, the system quietly kept its mouth shut, not daring to make a sound. After all, it had to bear half the responsibility for today's beating. I was wrong, I was really wrong." Lily loudly begged for mercy, but inwardly she cursed thousands of times. "System, this is all your fault. If you were human, I'd beat you to death today." Looking at the lively scene in the courtyard, the hidden guards felt both sorry and amused, and hurried off to report to Emperor Ming. Emperor Ming had been in a gloomy mood because of Concubine Rose's affair, but hearing this news, he immediately perked up. Thinking of the scene of Lily being chased by 2 dogs, until she was breathless, hanging pitifully from a tree, being mocked by everyone, and then getting beaten when she got home, he suddenly felt unusually refreshed. "Emph. That's what you get for eating my gossip. Now you're getting your comeuppance." After the beating ended, Lily stopped crying out in pain and silently hugged her bottom as she limped back to her room. Seeing her pitiful appearance, Lady Chen suddenly softened. "Were we perhaps a bit too harsh just now?" Lord Chen thought it might have been a bit harsh indeed, but seeing her so quiet, she must have realized her mistake. About 5 seconds later, screaming echoed from Lily's room. "Ah, why is my fate so miserable? Am I really your biological child or not, treating me like this? I've already been embarrassed enough today, and you're adding fuel to the fire. Don't you consider my feelings at all?" The system silently endured the earth-shaking screams, not daring to speak up, and even shut down because it couldn't bear to listen. Even a system couldn't withstand such commotion. After screaming herself hoarse, Lily finally quieted down, but she began calculating in her mind. "This won't do. Next time I sneak out to eat gossip, I need to prepare in advance. That's right. I can prepare a black hood. If I encounter a situation like today, no one will recognize me. I'm truly brilliant." Lord Chen and Lady Chen thought to themselves, it seems today's beating was useless again. In Lily's room, their friendship ship capsized just like that. For the rest of the day, she refused to talk to the system. The system also felt guilty, so one person and one system maintained a cold war until evening. Exhausted from the day's events, Lily went to bed early that night. The next day, she still hadn't initiated conversation with the system, sitting silently in the carriage preparing for court. This sudden quietness made Lord Chen feel unaccustomed. Actually, Lily didn't want to attend court today. After yesterday's beating, her bottom still hurt, and she walked with a slight limp, but Lord Chen wouldn't let her request leave. It wasn't that he wanted her to attend court, it was just that she caused small troubles every 3 days and big ones every 5 days. If she requested leave every time, the emperor probably wouldn't allow it. Finally, the carriage stopped at the palace gates. The ministers saw Lily limping as she walked in. They expressed concern with their mouths, but inwardly they nearly burst with laughter. Yesterday Lily had caused chaos throughout the capital, and news of what happened to her quickly reached their ears. They had nearly rolled on the floor laughing, especially those officials who had previously been targeted by Lily's gossip about their family affairs. They felt incredibly refreshed, even dreaming and waking up laughing several times during the night. They sincerely wanted to thank those 2 large mastiffs for finally helping them vent their anger. The only pity was that with this situation, little Lady Chen probably wouldn't be in the mood to eat gossip anymore. From now on, the court would likely lose much of its entertainment. As long as it wasn't gossip about their own families, following little Lady Chen to eat gossip about others was still an irresistible pleasure. Emperor Ming watched Lily stumbling along with her head down, and somehow felt pleased. Since yesterday when he heard about Lily's affairs, more than half his irritation had dissipated. Today, seeing her miserable state with his own eyes, his mood became even more refreshed. Perhaps in the entire court, the most dejected person right now was Lily. But this dejected Lily was thinking, "System, quickly tell me what exactly happened with Duke Sterling's 3rd young lady yesterday." Emperor Ming and the court officials thought, "She still has the mood to eat gossip." Duke Sterling felt darkness before his eyes, and nearly collapsed. How did gossip about his family suddenly become the target? Yesterday, though the streets were noisy and chaotic, he had gone to rest early due to poor health. And this morning he hurried to court without knowing what had happened. The system put on an air of being favored yet apprehensive. "Host, you're not angry with the system anymore." Lily angry. "I stopped being angry long ago, you didn't know." Well, holding grudges causes ovarian cysts and taking a step back causes breast hyperplasia. Anger harms the body, girls shouldn't do that, so I usually don't hold grudges overnight. System, huh? Then why didn't you pay attention to me? I thought? Lily, system, you misunderstood. I was just simply tired and didn't want to talk. But now I feel better. It's just that yesterday I only got halfway through eating that gossip, so unsatisfying. How about you continue the story now? Even if I can't eat gossip on the scene, hearing it like this is acceptable too. Emperor Ming and the court officials thought truly heartless. After such a huge embarrassment yesterday, she acts like nothing happened and is still enthusiastically eating gossip. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't dare mention gossip for half a year. But this way, they had the fortune to continue following little Lady Chen and eating gossip. So everyone perked up excitedly, pricking up their ears to listen. The system breathed a sigh of relief. "You scared me to death. If the host stopped paying attention to me, my energy would probably run out completely." Here, big gossip coming right up. The story goes like this: Claire Sterling, the 3rd young lady of Duke Sterling's manor, has fallen for a little southern potato and insists on marrying him. She's currently on a hunger strike, arguing with her family. Lily, I see. System, you're quite good at analogies. Calling him little southern potato is quite accurate. So how did that guy's secret meeting with Miss Sterling go yesterday? Duke Sterling what? Those 2 dared to meet secretly. Isn't my daughter supposed to be obediently staying in the manor? Actually, Duke Sterling had been having headaches over this recently. The 3rd young lady had always been an obedient and understanding girl, but this time she had somehow been bewitched by some scoundrel and become stubborn as a mule. He had tried beating and scolding, but she wouldn't listen, only saying one thing: if they wouldn't let her marry him, she'd rather starve to death. The ministers secretly glanced at Duke Sterling with sympathetic expressions. Though they didn't understand what little southern potato meant, They grasped the main point. But why was this happening to Duke Sterling's family? Though they hadn't met the third young lady, everyone knew the Sterling household had strict family education. All three daughters were well raised and proper. The eldest was already the princess consort, and though the second hadn't married yet, all the ladies in the capital praised her. Not only was she outstandingly beautiful but also skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, no less than her elder sister. Many noble families had their eyes on the second young lady, with matchmakers visiting countless times. Though the third young lady wasn't as renowned as her two sisters, she had no bad reputation either. Who would have thought she had such a strong personality? System. That's right, yesterday that little southern potato crawled through a dog hole to sneak into the manor. Lily, I see. What a pity yesterday he had his back to us, so we couldn't see his face clearly. But Miss Sterling is tall and graceful with decent looks, so why would she like such a short guy? Is he handsome? Or exceptionally talented? Or like the little golden potato of Concubine Rose, though short, he's rich, handsome, talented, and knows how to please people. In short, besides being short, he has no other flaws. If so, that wouldn't be too bad. Why would Duke Sterling object? The ministers finally understood that little southern potato simply meant short. But who was this Concubine Rose that Lily mentioned? The Northern Dynasty didn't have a Concubine Rose. And what was this little golden potato? Why did little Lady Chen always say such incomprehensible things? But they agreed with her on one point: if the man was only short but excellent in all other aspects, he would be worth considering. Duke Sterling sighed inwardly. If it were just a matter of height, he wouldn't have been so firmly opposed. The fifth prince whispered to the second prince, "In my opinion, that man probably has an ordinary background. Duke Sterling is old-fashioned and insists on matching social status, so he disagrees. I think if two people truly love each other, why separate them? Don't you agree, brother?" The second prince had made progress recently. Originally, he didn't think this was a big deal, but lately he'd been obsessed with reading romance novels full of stories about parents separating lovers due to social status differences, even driving people to suicide, which made him grind his teeth in anger. Hearing about Miss Sterling's situation triggered this reaction. The second prince didn't respond, remaining calm as usual. Compared to the fifth prince, the second prince was more mature and wouldn't comment casually without knowing the full story.
System, no.
This little southern potato is nothing like the little golden potato except for both being little. He's not tall, not handsome, not rich, and his education is poor. He still hasn't even passed the scholar examination. The court officials were even more amazed hearing this. If this man had nothing outstanding about him, why would Miss Sterling take notice of him? This was exactly what made Duke Sterling feel endlessly frustrated. He truly couldn't understand how his third daughter, though perhaps slightly inferior to her two elder sisters, wasn't so lacking. Moreover, she was the legitimate daughter of Duke Sterling's manor in this vast capital. So many outstanding young men for her to choose from. Why did she stubbornly focus on that worthless man? Lily also found it hard to explain and blurted out, "What? So he's a complete good for nothing? Then how did Miss Sterling fall for him? Does he have some other special attraction? System attraction. Does having a sweet tongue count? Haven't young ladies always fallen for smooth talkers? Lily liking a sweet, talking man isn't wrong, but at least he should have some other merits, right? Otherwise, he's no different from a toad croaking ribbit ribbit in front of her all day. Even if he croaked flowers, who could stand it?" Emperor Ming nearly burst out laughing. Lily was indeed skilled at comparisons, but was that little potato really so ugly? The ministers below also began to wonder about the little potato's appearance. Could he really be as unbearably ugly as little Lady Chen described? System, her comparison is too exaggerated. He's not that ugly. Lily, fine. But I still don't understand why Miss Sterling is so infatuated with this little potato that she absolutely must have him. Is it really just because of his sweet words? System, she doesn't know the full story. This time Miss Sterling fell so deeply into love's trap because Duke Sterling and his wife bear significant responsibility. Everyone curiously turned to look at Duke Sterling. What did the system mean by this? Duke Sterling had always been famous for strictly educating his children. How could the third young lady's situation be related to him? Duke Sterling immediately protested. System, don't speak nonsense. My wife and I have devoted our hearts and souls to these children. How could it be our fault? Lily was equally curious and quickly asked. Oh, what's this about? System Miss Sterling is outstanding and skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, but she's still a level below her two elder sisters. Since childhood, she's always been compared to her two elder sisters. No matter how hard she tried, she could never surpass them or meet Duke Sterling and his wife's expectations. Gradually, the third young lady began to feel inferior, even somewhat giving up, considering herself superfluous. Just then, she met the little potato from the south. Though this man had no real abilities, he was very skilled at pleasing women. Under his sweet words, the third young lady gradually regained her confidence. Through repeated interactions, she fell for that little potato. Lily suddenly understood. I see. So Miss Sterling had been emotionally manipulated by her whole family since childhood. If so, I can understand why she became like this. With the little potato, she found recognition and discovered her own worth. Though the ministers didn't understand what manipulation meant, they could guess from the system's explanation. However, they still found it puzzling. Wasn't strict parenting natural? Parents being strict with their children was common sense, practiced for thousands of years. They themselves had been educated this way as children. Why did little Lady Chen seem to disapprove of this parenting method? Emperor Ming was also puzzled. Did Lily mean that Miss Sterling's current situation was entirely caused by Duke Sterling's childhood education methods? Duke Sterling himself was even more confused. Though he and his wife had been strict with their third daughter, it was for her own good. Moreover, honestly speaking, he loved all his children equally without favoritism. How could it be his fault? The system continued. That's right, the third young lady never received recognition from others since childhood. Gradually, she began to doubt herself, denied herself, even feeling like she was unnecessary. This is a typical manifestation of emotional manipulation. And now, clearly this family manipulation has caused serious psychological harm to the third young lady, leading to severe psychological problems. Therefore, when she met someone who not only didn't deny her, but constantly praised her, she would naturally want to get close to that person and cling to him, while staying away from those who made her feel inferior and unhappy. Lily nodded. Exactly right. Actually, cases like the third young lady are very common. Many parents treat their children as their possessions, always wanting to control their words and actions. When children don't meet expectations, they use harsh words or even physical violence to force compliance, thinking I do this for their own good. Though most don't do it intentionally, they cause serious harm to their children. Mild cases are like the third young lady, appearing obedient on the surface, but when triggered by an event or person, their personality suddenly changes, becoming extremely rebellious and confrontational with their parents. Severe cases can lead to major depression, loss of interest in life, and even suicide. The ministers were shocked hearing this. What? So serious? The third young lady's behavior was considered mild, yet it could even lead to suicide. Some couldn't help but reflect on their own child, rearing methods, suddenly realizing they had some of the manipulative behaviors Lily mentioned. Some even recognized that their children seemed to show the signs she described. Thinking of this, they dared not think further. Even Emperor Ming began reflecting on his own educational methods. It seemed to be true. He always believed children knew nothing. Without strict discipline, they would surely go astray. At the same time, fearing his children would become arrogant, he often used words to suppress them, wanting them to learn humility. But thinking back now, had he done wrong? Duke Sterling also began reviewing his past. It seemed exactly as Lily and the system said, he had always educated his children this way. Had he really been wrong? He began to feel regret. But fortunately, his daughter Claire hadn't fallen into the most serious condition Lily mentioned. Thinking this, he suddenly felt relieved. If his daughter had feelings for someone, as long as the other party wasn't of bad character, he could let her have her way. At most, after marriage, he would keep the couple in the capital and find the man a position. With his protection in the capital, though the young couple's future life might not be luxurious, at least it wouldn't be too bad. But the next second the system's words nearly made him spit blood. Lily, so system, what's the character of that little potato really like? Is he sincere with Miss Sterling? She added, if he's sincere, then Miss Sterling could be considered as having found happiness after suffering, meeting a husband who knows how to love and cherish her. System. Oh my, this is exactly the most pitiful aspect of Miss Sterling. That little potato is no good husband at all. He's a complete scumbag 100% trash. To put it bluntly, he only targeted Duke Sterling Manor's prominent status and deliberately approached her. Duke Sterling's eyes widened in shock. What? That little potato deliberately approached his daughter. What was this about? Though he had sent people to investigate this man before, in ancient times with long distances and poor communication, thoroughly investigating someone wasn't easy. Moreover, the little potato's hometown was in the south, thousands of miles from the capital. To fully understand someone's background in such a short time was truly difficult as current to heaven. Currently, he only knew through the man's friends that he was quite generous. Though not wealthy, when treating friends to food and drinks, he was very magnanimous and not stingy at all. However, this wasn't really a major flaw. Men who were too calculating with difficulty handling social relationships, especially in this prosperous capital. Duke Sterling's reason for opposing this marriage was simply that he felt the little potato's conditions weren't worthy of his daughter. Emperor Ming and the ministers were equally curious. Why did the system call the little potato a scumbag? What made him scummy? Lily was immediately pressed. What? System, explain clearly. System, this little potato is, frankly speaking, a gigolo. In his hometown, he was simultaneously supported by several wealthy ladies. Just relying on his smooth tongue, he made those ladies willingly open their purses to support him. Of course, those ladies weren't easily fooled either. Besides sweet words, sometimes the little potato had to sell his body to please them. But he didn't mind. As long as there was money, he was willing to trade his body. The money he brought to the capital this time all came from those ladies. Lily. Good heavens, so he's such a promiscuous person. Emperor Ming and the ministers were dumbfounded. Wasn't this gigolo exactly the type of male prostitute that people of this era despised? Oh my, it seemed Miss Sterling of Duke Sterling's manor not only had poor judgment but terrible luck too. How could she focus on such a person? Indeed, in this era, male prostitutes were the lowest class, looked down upon by society. Anyone who became a male prostitute not only brought shame upon themselves, but their entire family and relatives couldn't hold their heads up. Duke Sterling was so angry he nearly fainted. He never imagined the little potato wasn't just inadequately qualified but was such a shameless person. System, that's not all. After getting money, the little potato began complaining that those ladies were old and faded. So he took their money and secretly ran to the Blue House in the neighboring county for excitement. Compared to those aging ladies, the young and beautiful girls at the Blue House obviously suited him better. Lily, good heavens. Isn't this a typical case of a male prostitute with no professional ethics? System, you're absolutely right. This little potato not only lacks ethics but has terrible character. He contracted diseases at the Blue House but hid it, continuing to consort with those ladies and infecting several of them. Lily, dear lord. This is pure scum. Emperor Ming and the minister's jaws nearly dropped. Anyone randomly pulled from the street would probably be better than this man. Yet Miss Sterling was infatuated with such a person. Duke Sterling ground his teeth in fury, wishing he could tear that little potato to pieces. Such a worthless creature dared to entice and deceive his daughter. Unfortunately, his foolish daughter was now completely devoted to that man. If he acted rashly against the little potato, not only would Northern Dynasty law not permit it, but he feared his knave daughter might sacrifice herself for love alongside that scoundrel. Oh, what a dilemma. Lily. So didn't those ladies later seek revenge on the little potato? System, why wouldn't they? It's just that their secret support of the gigolo couldn't be made public, so everything was done in secret. Even if Duke Sterling sent people to investigate, it would be hard to uncover. But this time the little potato infected them with diseases, clearly angering them. Several ladies planned to secretly send their servants to teach him a lesson, but unexpectedly the little potato heard about it from somewhere and fled with the money in the night. Lily, I see. So it seems Miss Sterling is truly unlucky. System. That's right. Actually, the little potato came to the capital to try his luck. He thought if ladies in his small county were so generous, then ladies in the capital must be even richer. But when he arrived in the capital, he discovered that as an outsider, he had no opportunity to approach those noble ladies. Moreover, though the capital had many wealthy ladies, there was no shortage of handsome gigolos either. These ladies preferred elegance and especially favored talented young men who could compose poetry. The little potato was neither handsome nor educated, completely unable to compete. Seeing his situation was hopeless and about to leave the capital, he coincidentally met Miss Sterling of Duke Sterling's manor. Duke Sterling was so angry he was grinding his teeth. One worthless creature after another dared to target his daughter. Unfortunately, his foolish daughter might even sacrifice her life for love with that scoundrel. Oh, what a terrible dilemma. Lily, so didn't those ladies later come looking for the little potato to settle accounts? System, why wouldn't they? It's just that their secret support of the gigolo couldn't be made public, so everything had to be done in secret. Even if Duke Sterling sent people to investigate, it would be difficult to uncover the truth. But this time when the little potato infected them with diseases, he clearly enraged them. Several ladies were planning to secretly send their trusted servants to teach him a lesson. But unexpectedly the little potato somehow got wind of it and fled with the money under cover of darkness. Lily sighed. So that's how it was. It seems Miss Claire really is unlucky. The system replied, that's right. Actually, little potato came to the capital to try his luck. He thought, if the ladies in his small county were already so generous, then the ladies in the capital must be even wealthier. But when he arrived in the capital, he discovered that as an outsider, he had no opportunity to approach those noble ladies. Moreover, although the capital had many wealthy ladies, handsome and charming male companions were also abundant. These ladies preferred elegance and especially favored talented young gentlemen who could compose poetry and couplets. Little Potato was neither handsome nor educated, completely unable to compete. Lily remarked, he knew his place, didn't he? So what happened next? How did he seduce? No. How did he meet Miss Claire from the Sterling family? Everyone perked up their ears, wanting to hear the details of the story. The system continued. Little Potato wasn't willing to give up easily, because his smooth tongue and silver speech were truly unmatched. He was confident that he understood women better than anyone else. Few men could match him in this regard. So he thought of countless ways to befriend those male companions, hoping they could put in a good word for him. That's why those who had dealings with him all praised him as generous and magnanimous. But his money kept dwindling while he still hadn't hooked any benefactor. Just when he was almost broke and about to leave the capital, he happened to meet the third miss of Duke Sterling's mansion. He originally thought a young lady from such a noble family would surely be arrogant and difficult to approach, but who would have thought this third miss was incredibly easy to deceive? He only spoke a few sweet words, didn't even spend much money, yet she was already moved to tears. Initially, he only planned to squeeze some money from her and then disappear, but unexpectedly he caught a love-struck girl so naive that she even declared she would marry no one but him. After all, Miss Claire from the Sterling family was quite beautiful and had a prominent family background. Wasn't this like a meat bun falling from heaven? So he changed his plan, no longer rushing to scam money but wanting to marry the third miss outright, even if it meant becoming a live-in son-in-law. Unfortunately, Duke Sterling absolutely refused to agree to the marriage. So he instigated the third miss to pressure her family, telling her that if a hunger strike didn't work, she should threaten with death. Hearing the system recount the whole story, Duke Sterling was so furious his face turned ashen and he collapsed unconscious. Fortunately, Emperor Ming had anticipated this situation. Ever since Lady Lily began gossiping in court, he had worried that someone might faint from psychological shock, so he had arranged for guards and physicians to stand by. The moment Duke Sterling collapsed, 2 guards quickly caught him, while a physician hurriedly pressed his pressure points. Duke Sterling thus regained consciousness, though his complexion remained pale. Lily was completely absorbed in the gossip, unaware of the chaos in the court. This was the first time she had listened to gossip while grinding her teeth in anger. Good heavens, a true love-struck girl meeting a genuine scoundrel. I tell you, men's mouths are full of lies. Not a single man is decent. You can only believe 30% of what they say. How can you trust everything? To go on a hunger strike for such a useless, rootless nobody. Truly the height of foolishness. The ministers heard this and were all stunned. What do you mean no man is decent, Lady Lily? You're painting everyone with the same brush. That little potato is indeed despicable, but he's just an isolated case. Most men are decent. Why condemn everyone because of one scoundrel? How unfair. Lord Chen also felt he was being wrongly implicated, thinking to himself, what strange things is this girl saying? Aren't I also a man? How did I suddenly get scolded? Emperor Ming stroked his beard, feeling indignant, staring directly at Lily. Lily, look at me. Am I not a perfect gentleman? Are you blind? Such an excellent man standing right in front of you, yet you don't see. He felt he treated all the concubines in his harem very well. How could he not be a good man? The system spoke up, Master. Your words are a bit too absolute. There are still good men in this world, like your father for instance. Doesn't all of the Northern Dynasty acknowledge him as a good person? The ministers nodded in agreement. That's right, the system speaks sense. Isn't your father a good man? Lord Chen unconsciously raised his head high, thinking smugly, indeed, this system has good judgment. Emperor Ming muttered to himself, what about me? What about me? Why forget about me? Lily refused to back down. Forget it. What makes you think you're acknowledged as good? You don't know this, but my father has deceived my mother plenty. You know all of father's money is kept by mother, so every time he buys something, he often inflates the bill, secretly adding a bit extra. Like yesterday, he added an extra towel of silver to save money to secretly buy the calligraphy set he's been coveting for so long. If I hadn't accidentally discovered it, I never would have known my father was also two-faced. Lord Chen's face turned red as a monkey's bottom as he groaned inwardly. Did you need to blurt out such trivial matters here? Father needs some dignity too. Besides, when was I ever two-faced? The ministers burst out laughing. Ha! Who would have thought Lord Chen would be so pitiful, having to sneak around and inflate bills over just one tael of silver? Absolutely hilarious. Emperor Ming looked at Lord Chen with sympathetic eyes, feeling a bit smug. Muff, although you might be slightly more handsome than me, my family status is higher than yours. At least I don't need to lie over one tael of silver. Ha! The system thought for a moment and said, what you say seems to make some sense. Lord Chen protested. You youngsters don't understand anything. I did that for family harmony. How can you call it deception? Besides, I bargained hard all day to save that money. It's money I earned myself. How can you call it stealing? Heaven knows, a first-rank minister like him standing on the street haggling until his lips were sore, just to save a little money to buy something he loved. How easy could that be? Actually, it wasn't that Lady Chen wouldn't let him buy those things. It was just that Lord Chen always demanded the whole family be frugal and not buy unnecessary items. He had always set an example, but recently he'd become obsessed with collecting calligraphy and paintings, and was too embarrassed to speak up, so he secretly saved money. Lily naturally didn't know these details and continued complaining furiously in her heart. Didn't I speak correctly? System. Didn't you once say that even our emperor frequently says one thing but means another, deceiving his concubines? The ministers and Emperor Ming both reacted. When did I ever say one thing and mean another? Lily, don't talk nonsense. The system replied. It does seem to be true. The day before yesterday, you told Concubine Virtue that she was the one you loved most. Then yesterday you said the exact same thing to Concubine Grace. I bet you've forgotten how many people you've said this to. The ministers chuckled. So the emperor does this too. We thought the emperor was a sovereign who feared neither heaven nor earth. Unlike us who often say one thing in public but do another in private. Thinking this way, Emperor Ming wondered, did I really say that to so many concubines? Why can't I remember? Besides, when emotions are running high, isn't saying such things normal? How did I become a scoundrel through these two's mouths? Seeing the ministers' knowing looks, Emperor Ming felt completely uncomfortable. Fortunately, Lily stopped this topic and returned to the main story she hadn't finished gossiping about. Ah, men really are detestable. But Miss Claire from the Sterling family is truly pitiful. What should we do? I suddenly want to run to Duke Sterling's man to wake her up. Hearing Lily's thoughts, the minister's eyes lit up. That's right, Lady Lily could handle this matter. Honestly, we were all furious at that shameless scoundrel just now. How can we let such a lowly outsider harm the good young ladies of the capital? But thinking about it, this is ultimately Duke Sterling's family matter. Outsiders like us can hardly interfere. Moreover, according to Lady Lily, Miss Claire from the Sterling family is currently completely lovesick and foolish, No matter how we advise her, she probably won't listen. In that case, we can only fight magic with magic. Lady Lily is no ordinary person. Perhaps if she takes action, she could turn the situation around. Hearing this, Duke Sterling, who had been furious to the point of fainting, suddenly became completely alert. Exactly. If I could invite Lady Lily to the mansion and let Claire hear her heartfelt words, perhaps Claire would come to her senses. After all, everyone in the capital knows that every scandal Lady Lily exposes is guaranteed to be ripe and juicy. Claire naturally knows this too. Thinking this, he decided to immediately seek out Lady Lily after court ended. On the other side, Lord Chen frowned slightly. It wasn't that he didn't want Lily to help, honestly. He also disliked that little potato. A guy with no backbone who only knew how to deceive women to get by. But just yesterday, Lily had caused a whole series of troubles just by going to gossip a little. Now if she got involved in matchbreaking again, who knew what would happen next? Compared to other people's daughters' happiness, Lily's safety was most important. Moreover, with Lily's personality of success being insufficient, but failure being more than enough, could she really help? Or would she end up not solving the problem but bringing disaster upon herself? Just then, the system suddenly spoke up. Master, I just found out that yesterday it was that little potato who instigated Miss Claire to set the dogs on you. Lord Chen exclaimed. What, so that's how it was? This guy really has the gall of a tiger and the courage of a bear, daring to set dogs on my daughter. Next time I meet him, if I don't teach him a lesson, I swear I won't bear the surname Chen. Indeed, Lord Chen's daughter could be beaten by him, but others shouldn't even think of touching a hair on her head. Lily was also furious. What? This guy is truly despicable. I was just secretly gossiping a little. I didn't expose anything or ruin his good deeds, yet he dared to set dogs on people. No way, I absolutely must find an opportunity to get revenge. The system encouraged. Master, I support you. Don't humans often say, a gentleman must avenge his grievances? So even if not for Miss Claire, just for yesterday's vendetta, I support you in exposing his ugly face. In my opinion, don't wait for another opportunity. Go tonight. I just found out that tonight little potato will secretly deliver food to Miss Claire. He's already plotted with her, telling her to pretend to hunger strike on the surface, but secretly eat some food behind the scenes, so she can drag out the time to pressure her father into agreeing to the marriage. Lily commented. He's quite the schemer. Duke Sterling was shocked to hear this. He had been wondering why his youngest daughter, who was normally such a glutton that missing one meal would make her complain of hunger, had somehow become like a different person this time, persisting in her hunger strike for several days. Turns out she was playing tricks on him, thinking of how he had worried and grieved for days, even almost agreeing to this marriage for fear his daughter would starve to death. He was furious. He never expected that little potato would secretly pull such underhanded tricks. The system continued. That's not all. Recently, little potato has been constantly urging Miss Claire, saying if all else fails, they should cook the raw rice. That way Duke Sterling would have to agree even if he didn't want to. Fortunately, Miss Claire has a conservative temperament and hasn't agreed yet. Hearing this, Duke Sterling was so angry smoke came from his nose and he nearly spat blood. That scoundrel, he truly is scum. This isn't love for my daughter, he clearly wants to ruin her reputation. Moreover, he's carrying disease. Is he trying to kill my daughter? And my daughter is also foolish, refusing to think that if he truly cared for her, what kind of person would make such demands? Yet she's still hunger striking for him. Thank goodness she hasn't been foolish enough to agree, or her whole life would be ruined. The ministers standing nearby didn't know what else to say. Putting themselves in his shoes, if their daughters encountered such a situation, they would probably want to rush up and chop that guy into 8 pieces. Lily asked. He's quite the calculator. But how are we going to get into Duke Sterling's mansion? Don't tell me you want me to crawl through the dog hole again. Lord Chen's head ached like being hammered when he heard this. This girl really dares to think. With your limping walk, you still want to crawl through dog holes. Have you forgotten yesterday's lesson so quickly? The system reassured. No problem, master. This time you can boldly crawl through. I have the protection mechanism ready. Even if you encounter those golden dogs again, they won't hurt you. Lord Chen thought, the more I listen, the less reliable this system seems. Lily said, well, but there's still one problem. Even her father's words can't convince Miss Clare. Would she believe what I say? Everyone chimed in unanimously. She'll believe. Lady Lily, have some confidence. Looking at the crowd's eager expressions, Lord Chen could only remain silent. The system encouraged, Master, don't underestimate yourself. You might not be able to persuade people to reconcile, but convincing them to break up is as easy as flipping your palm, right? As I recall, before I bonded with you, didn't you single-handedly cause several couples to separate? Everyone was surprised that Lady Lily had such talent. Lord Chen suddenly remembered that time he took Lily to Brother Tang's house, just when the eldest son and daughter-in-law were arguing. At the time, no one in the family paid attention because the couple often argued at the head of the bed, but made up at the foot. But later they heard that after that argument, the two actually divorced. The ministers still couldn't understand how that couple, who had never let their arguments last overnight, suddenly made such a fuss that they divorced. Hearing the system say this, Lord Chen suddenly remembered that back then, little Lily had secretly whispered something to both of them. At the time Lily was still small, so he didn't pay attention. What could a child say? She probably just curiously asked why they were arguing and casually said a few words. But thinking about it now, could it be that they were advised by Lily to go their separate ways? Good heavens, there were also the grandson and granddaughter-in-law of Minister Wang, an elderly with his concubine. Initially they were just having a cold war, but after Lily visited, they soon divorced. Could all this be Lily's doing? Thinking of this, Lord Chen suddenly felt a chill down his spine. People often say better to demolish 10 temples than destroy one marriage. Just how many temples had Lily demolished? Lily mused. What you say seems right, but those couples I advised to separate, weren't their relationships already cracked? Even staying together would just be going through the motions. Look, those people I advised to separate, aren't they all living happier lives now than before? Lord Chen thought about it. It seemed to true. The system agreed. Right, Master speaks wisely, so you can definitely handle Miss Clare's situation too. Go for it. After court ended, Duke Sterling called Lord Chen aside. If Lady Lily could truly persuade his stubborn daughter, wouldn't she be the great benefactor of the Sterling mansion? He was a dignified duke. How could he let his benefactor crawl through dog holes? Lord Chen, please wait. I wonder if the Duke has any instructions. Though Lord Chen had guessed Duke Sterling's intentions, he still asked politely. It's like this, Lord Chen. I have a favor to ask of Lady Lily. I wonder if it would be convenient. Lily thought to herself, Duke Sterling suddenly asking for my help. What could this be about? Lord Chen laughed heartily. Your Grace jests. What could my little troublemaker possibly help with? She'd be doing well just not causing problems. Lord Chen is too modest. Lady Lily is brilliantly intelligent, clever and quidded with wisdom beyond her years. She's truly a rare talent. Even His Majesty values her highly, which shows she's extraordinary. Duke Sterling immediately launched into a stream of flattery, making Lily feel like she was floating on air. Lily immediately broke into a radiant smile, her eyes squinting shut, her mouth gaping so wide it wouldn't close. The system commented, Master, could you maintain some composure? They just threw you a few compliments and look at you. Grinning so wide you're showing all your teeth. Lily protested. What compliments? They're clearly stating facts. Lord Chen thought. Duke Sterling isn't being entirely truthful either. Lily was so flattered she practically wished she had a tail to wag, hurriedly asking, Your Grace is too kind. What would you like this humble official to help with? I hope Lady Lily won't laugh at me. Let me speak frankly. Recently there's been some trouble in the mansion. My unworthy daughter has somehow been bewitched and insists on being with some scholar. But according to my investigation, he's not a good person and not worth entrusting her whole life to. If she stays with him, her entire life will be ruined, but she seems under a spell. No matter how the family advises her, she won't listen. Duke Sterling looked embarrassed, his tone sincere. I think since Lady Lily is a young woman and exceptionally intelligent, I'd like to ask you to help counsel the girl. This was the first time in Lily's life that someone had asked for her help, and the person asking was Duke Sterling himself. She felt like she was floating on clouds and immediately agreed. Your Grace is too polite. You can leave this matter to me. I'm best at advising breakups. I know. The system corrected. Right. We'll definitely handle this watermelon couple cleanly. Lord Chen quickly covered his face, not daring to look at where these two got their confidence. That evening, the officials finished dinner early, and as if by prior arrangement, all equipped themselves fully, wrapping themselves tightly in black clothing with only their eyes showing. Anyone who didn't know better would think this was a gang of bandits going out to kill and rob at night. This group stopped at the back garden of Duke Sterling's mansion. Initially, they had heard Lily and the system's thoughts and planned to secretly climb the back garden wall. That spot had a good position where they could see clearly inside. Perfect for gossip consumption. Some who knew they couldn't climb had their servants prepare ladders in advance, planning to climb up. But when they arrived, everyone was dumbfounded. The wall had already been occupied by others. They quickly recognized that those people were none other than several princes. At this moment, the second, third, fourth, and fifth princes were crouched on the wall like four large toads, preparing to consume gossip. Around them were many hidden guards, ostensibly for protection, but actually also there for the gossip. The eldest prince was still sulking about the succession issue and had no mood to join them in the excitement. These princes, wanting to secure the best gossip, watching positions, had come to scout Duke Sterling's mansion early, but they weren't like Lady Lily, who was personally invited by Duke Sterling to enter the mansion as a counselor. Though they were princes, they couldn't just barge into someone's mansion to watch the show. After thinking for ages without finding a reasonable excuse, they had to choose this method. Fortunately, the system hadn't lied. This position was indeed an ideal gossip spot, except for the dog hole below. As noble princes, how could they crawl through dog holes? Actually, there was only one hole, and they argued for ages with no one willing to yield, so in the end, no one used it. The ministers had to think of other ways. Fortunately, the ladders they brought for climbing walls now came in handy. Everyone was helped by servants to climb the ladders one by one, preparing for gossip consumption. General Mason considered himself extraordinarily agile and thought a mere wall couldn't challenge him, so he didn't bring a ladder. On the way, he had mocked those who brought ladders quite a bit. Now seeing the wall packed with people, even with all his talents, General Mason was helpless. In the end, he had to beg for ages before borrowing a ladder from Minister Han. Those who neither brought ladders nor could find someone to lend them, one thought of other solutions. They had their servants stand on each other's shoulders, forming human ladders. For gossip, these power holders of the Northern Dynasty really risked everything. Compared to their somewhat pathetic sneaky appearance, Lily was much more sophisticated. She was formally welcomed into the mansion by Duke Sterling himself. Lord Chen also got invited in thanks to his daughter's blessing. Duke Sterling led them straight to the back garden. Sure enough, from afar Duke Sterling could see his third daughter being lovey-dovey with that short guy, sickeningly sweet. Duke Sterling was so angry he ground his teeth and immediately charged forward. Lily and Lord Chen saw this and hurriedly followed. Claire, it seems someone's coming. Let's call it a night. I'll leave first and come find you another day. Little Potato saw people approaching and immediately to quickly escape through the dog hole. Everyone watching saw Little Potato trying to escape through the dog hole and could only hate that they couldn't immediately jump down from the wall or ladder to grab him by the collar. But it turned out they didn't need to act because someone had already arranged everything. Several large golden dogs, apparently well trained and lying in ambush, were waiting. The moment Little Potato stuck his head out of the dog hole, those dogs simultaneously pounced on him. In the back garden at this moment, Lord Chen heard the barking from the direction of the dog hole, and a barely perceptible knowing smile flashed across his face. Dare to set dogs on my daughter. This is the price you must pay. Who would have thought that Lord Chen, who usually beat Lily without mercy, was actually a doting father who spoiled his daughter? Duke Sterling witnessed his daughter secretly having an affair with an outsider right in his mansion, and was about to open his mouth to scold. But when his gaze turned from the dog hole back, he suddenly discovered that on the wall outside the mansion, on those nearby ladders, even on those human ladders stacked on top of each other, there were heads and pairs of sneaky eyes everywhere, making him jump in shock. Good heavens, could it be that bandits are visiting Duke Sterling's mansion? But what bandits would be so bold as to break into a duke's mansion at night with such a large crowd? Unless they brought all the thieves in the capital here. No, the security of the Northern Dynasty isn't that bad. They surely wouldn't dare be so reckless. But if they're not bandits, who are these people? He looked more carefully. Oh my. It turns out there are several familiar pairs of eyes among them. Only then did Duke Sterling realize. These were the old men from the court. They must have heard Lily's thoughts in court today, and all rushed here to spy on the walls of Duke Sterling's mansion. Good heavens, you are all pillars of the Northern Dynasty, yet now you have so much free time to gather and spy on walls. And if it were just those old men, that would be one thing, but there are also several princes. What's going on? How does Emperor Ming usually educate you all? But Duke Sterling didn't dare voice these words. After all, they were princes. He couldn't very well chase them away. Well, he'd just pretend not to see them. Anyway, his little daughter's affairs were no longer secret, so if they wanted to gossip, let them gossip. The urgent matter now was to make this lovesick daughter see the true face of that little potato. Therefore, he respectfully said to Lily, "Lady Lily, my daughter's matter depends entirely on you." Lily patted her chest with complete confidence. "Your Grace, rest assured and leave it to me." Duke Sterling led everyone to face the third miss, but when Miss Clare saw her father bringing several people over, her expression showed not a trace of warmth. "Father, don't waste your efforts anymore. No matter who you bring to advise me, it's useless. I've decided, in this life and the next, I'll only marry Ryan." Over this period, her father had invited many people to counsel her, her elder sisters, then various aunts and uncles she barely knew, even deliberately finding several widows who lived miserably because they had disobeyed their families in the past, stubbornly marrying men of their own choosing, only to discover those men were worthless and regret it too late. One could see that Duke Sterling had exhausted all efforts to persuade this daughter. Unfortunately, this time Claire was determined to the point of stubbornness. Others had misjudged. That was because their eyes were poor, but her Ryan was the most wonderful man in the world, and she absolutely had not chosen wrongly. "Hello, third miss, I'm Lily." Lily stepped forward with a smile to greet her. Claire was slightly moved. Lily. She had heard this name before. She'd heard that others could hear her thoughts, and that she also had something called a system that seemed to know everything. Her father must have invited her here to use that system to convince her. But immediately after, Claire regained her composure. Her Ryan hid almost nothing from her. There were no secrets in front of her, so inviting anyone would be useless. "So you're Miss Chen. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm a bit tired today. Please excuse me to rest first. Father, since Lady Lily is visiting our mansion for the first time, remember to receive her properly." Having said this, she turned to leave. Duke Sterling was so angry he was about to explode, but just then, the conversation between Lily and the system rang out again. "System, this Miss Sterling really has problems with her eyesight. Her little potato looks absolutely terrible. It hurt my eyes just looking at him. I just glanced at him and nearly threw up." Claire, who was about to leave, suddenly stopped. "What? She dares say my eyesight has problems. My Ryan may not be an absolute beauty, but he's at least average. And why does she call my Ryan little potato?" The system replied, "Master, her reaction is a bit excessive. Even if he's just average, it shouldn't make you want to vomit from one look." Lily responded, "What do you mean excessive? He's explosively ugly. I tell you, while it's true that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, the see-she in her eyes is too pathetic. She can't even compare to Dong-she, let alone see-she. Claire isn't that bad looking herself, is she? Ugly is one thing, but he's also short. What's that saying? Men under 5'6" are either scrawny or useless reserves. Short is one thing, but he's also poor. Poor is one thing, but he has no education either. No education is one thing, but his character is also terrible. Could it really just be because he has a smooth tongue that knows how to speak sweet words?" The crowd watching could barely contain their laughter. This Lady Lily really had a vicious tongue. Even Duke Sterling standing nearby had to suppress his laughter. Miss Clare was so angry smoke was coming from her nose. Lily dared to describe the gentleman in her heart, whom she considered incomparable, as worthless. She was indignant and wanted to argue. But unfortunately Lily was only thinking to herself and not speaking aloud. For a moment, she didn't know how to refute. Just then, The system's voice rang out again. Master, I just discovered Little Potato has a fresh scandal on him. Do you want to hear it? What scandal? Last night Little Potato got taken care of by the butcher at the street corner. What? Which butcher? Could it be Bill Thompson, who previously took care of the young master from the Lee family? Miss Claire now knew that the Little Potato the system mentioned was her Ryan, but she didn't understand what taken care of meant, so she also perked up her ears to listen. What did it mean to be taken care of by a butcher? Could it be what they were thinking? Good heavens, impossible. This news was too explosive. And who was this young master from the Lee family? At this moment outside the courtyard, several large golden dogs were frantically attacking Little Potato. In the courtyard, Lily was earnestly counseling Miss Claire with all her heart. The princes and ministers consuming gossip were frantically busy. They wanted both to run out and watch the dogs attack Little Potato and were afraid of missing the good show in the courtyard. At this moment, everyone was secretly cursing Goddess Nyua. Why did she only give humans 2 eyes in front when creating people? If there were an extra pair at the back of their heads, how convenient it would be. The system confirmed, that's right, it's Bill. Recently, the young master from the Lee family fell for someone else and dumped Bill without mercy. Bill was in a terrible mood when he happened to meet Little Potato. Although Little Potato's appearance was ordinary, he unexpectedly suited Bill's taste. Lily mused, indeed, turnips and greens, everyone has their preferences. No wonder I thought Little Potato's walk looked strange earlier. So was Little Potato forced? The system replied, not exactly. Little Potato did this willingly. What? Little Potato actually likes this sort of thing too. Everyone's jaws nearly dropped. This Little Potato really wasn't picky about anything. Even butchers weren't spared. Or did he find the capital's butchers had a special flavor? The system explained, although it was voluntary, it was also out of desperation. Little Potato has been in the capital for a long time, and living expenses are costly. Moreover, to approach those noble ladies earlier, he had spent quite a bit of money, so his purse had long been empty. But his affair with Miss Claire was at a crucial stage. He absolutely couldn't bear to miss this opportunity to rise from rags to riches. Since Duke Sterling already looked down on his poor conditions, he didn't dare ask Miss Claire for money, so he had to find his own way to survive. To get money, he had tried stealing, but once nearly got caught red-handed stealing from Minister Han's mansion. He was terrified because if the theft was exposed, his relationship with Miss Claire would surely be ruined, so he didn't dare steal anymore. Minister Han exclaimed, "What? So the thief who broke into my mansion last time and couldn't be caught, and who also broke my most precious vase, that was this scoundrel?" Everyone was also stunned. Miss Claire's judgment really was terrible beyond words. How could she become infatuated with such a person? Lily bluntly summarized, "It seems I misunderstood Little Potato before. He's not just useless, he's a debauched wastrel who deceives, cheats and steals, possessing all 5 poisons. In short, he's a poison man." Everyone echoed, 5 poison man. Lady Lily really is a master of summarization. The system continued, later, the money stolen from Minister N's mansion was also spent. Unable to pay rent, the innkeeper threw him out. Forget having a place to stay. He was about to have no food to eat, although he believed that as long as he could marry Miss Claire, glorious and prosperous days would await him. People still get hungry without food. After 2 days of starvation, Little Potato gritted his teeth and decided to use his last resort, selling his body. Unfortunately, ideals were beautiful but reality was harsh. With Little Potato's appearance, he had no competitive advantage in the capital. Even if he wanted to sell, no one would buy. Once while walking on the street, he fainted from hunger right in front of Bill's meat stall. Bill took him home, and both were like hungry tigers. Bill lusted after Little Potato's body, while Little Potato lusted after Bill's meat. Both sides were evenly matched and quickly reached an agreement. Bill promised to give Little Potato 3 pounds of meat each time they finished, plus room and board. Little Potato was responsible for serving Bill. The two had been carrying on like this for several days. Lily gasped, "Good heavens, there's actually this kind of transaction." Indeed, in a big forest, you'll find all kinds of birds. Everyone stared wide-eyed with gaping mouths. This was the first time they'd heard of such a bizarre trade. Truly unbelievable. Miss Claire's complexion had now become extremely ugly. Though she didn't want to believe it, she knew everything Lily said was true. Lady Lily's gossip was never false, but she really couldn't believe her own judgment was so poor. How could her Ryan do such filthy things? The system added, that's right. Bill could be said to be trading meat for meat. Paffed. Haha. The watching crowd nearly choked from laughing so hard. This system really was amusing to listen to. Bill using pork to trade for little potatoes. Mate, wasn't that exactly trading meat for meat? The only thing was that little potato sold himself too cheaply. Lily also laughed until her stomach hurt. Speaking of it, little potato also suffered. Bill is tall and strong, 3 times his size. With that small body, he probably couldn't withstand being tormented a few times. The system reminded, Master, did you forget? Because little potato used to frequent the brothels, he still carries disease, and this time he even infected Bill. So who got the worst deal in this affair is hard to say. Lily mused. Then Bill really lost both the meat and the soldiers. Wait, why do I suddenly feel a bit sorry for Bill? Miss Claire now felt like her soul had left her body. Because of Ryan. No, because of that little potato. She had nearly severed ties with her family. Yet he turned out to be such a person. Not only doing such filthy things but also carrying venereal disease. She suddenly remembered how a few days ago, little potato had tempted her, saying they might as well go all the way. Cook the raw rice into cooked rice. So that her father wouldn't be able to object to them being together. Just thinking about it now made her feel nauseated. She turned to look at Lily, her eyes full of gratitude, though she couldn't hide the sadness on her face. Anyone's first sincere affection meeting such a scoundrel would be heartbreaking. Duke Sterling saw his little daughter's expression and knew she must have heard Lily's thoughts and come to her senses. He finally breathed a sigh of relief, but seeing his daughter's sadness, he couldn't help feeling distressed. Only Lily was broad-minded and didn't notice anything unusual. Seeing Miss Claire turn back, she suddenly remembered her mission and hurriedly organized her words. She spoke up, Miss Claire, about the matter between you and little Pot. No, Ryan? I've heard everything. Honestly, I feel very sorry for you. Miss Claire, you're both beautiful and talented. In this capital, finding someone of matching family status would be easy. Why must you choose Ryan? Miss Claire was somewhat incredulous. Beautiful and talented. Am I really that good? Lily showed an expression of amazement, her dramatic expressions almost comical. Miss Claire, why do you ask such a thing? You're so beautiful. Has no one ever told you? That's impossible. Besides, even if no one told you, haven't you ever looked in a mirror? Look. Hair black as a waterfall, skin white as winter lard, eyebrows like green mist, eyes bright as almonds, lips red as peach blossoms. Saying you're a fairy descended to earth wouldn't be an exaggeration at all. If I had your beauty, I'd walk sideways down the street. The ministers commented. Lady Lily, could you tone down the exaggeration a bit? Lord Chen looked at his daughter in surprise. When did this girl learn such flowery language? Every sentence flows smoothly without a single error. Lily thought to herself, what nonsense. To convince Miss Claire, I stayed up half the night reading books last night. And those books were borrowed from her brother Chen Wei. Apart from adventure stories, her house only had some slightly risque books whose language was too straightforward and somewhat crude. Not bad, but she was afraid of scaring Miss Claire. Chen Wei had been surprised last night when his sister suddenly wanted to borrow books to read. Turns out it was for this purpose. The system interjected. Master, moderation is key. Going further would be excessive. Miss Claire is indeed beautiful, but not to the extent you're praising her. Frankly speaking, her beauty is still a few points inferior to yours. But Lily thought that a young lady who had been psychologically suppressed since childhood needed strong medicine to be moved. Facts proved her thinking was correct. Miss Claire was praised until she overflowed with confidence, her mood immediately improving. Previously, she had liked little potato only because she felt inferior about herself, but now Lily helped her realize she wasn't inferior at all. In fact, she was quite outstanding. Thus she immediately escaped from her previous dead end. That's right, I'm the third miss of the Sterling family and deserve someone better. Why should I entangle myself with that scoundrel little potato? Lady Lily, I truly thank you today. Thanks to your words, my mood is much better. And father, I was wrong before. I misjudged people and did many foolish things that made you and mother worry. Duke Sterling saw his daughter finally come to her senses, his eyes misting up. Good, very good. Knowing your mistakes is good. Actually, your father and mother also had faults before, we were too strict with you. But in our hearts, you and your two sisters are all treasures. You're not inferior to your sisters at all. Really? Father, Claire loves you and mother too. Looking at the warm scene before them, everyone around smiled with satisfaction. Though the process was somewhat tortuous, there was finally a happy ending. It must be said that this was truly thanks to Lady Lily's great contribution. Duke Sterling should really thank Lily properly. At this moment, Duke Sterling suddenly remembered something. He wiped his eyes and said seriously, "Thanks to Lady Lily today. I will definitely choose a day to visit and express my gratitude. But I have another matter I'd like Lady Lily's help with. I wonder if it would be convenient." It must be acknowledged that Lily had handled this matter very satisfactorily today. Even Lord Chen dropped his guard and said with a smile, "Your Grace is too polite. Whatever you need to instruct, if my little daughter can do it, she'll certainly do her best." He even glanced at Lily with encouraging eyes. Lily wasn't modest either and nodded repeatedly. Duke Sterling smiled brightly, his eyes full of expectation. Though Lady Lily is young, she has a sharp eye for people and extremely thorough judgment. Therefore, I have a presumptuous request. I hope that when my daughter goes on future matchmaking meetings, Lady Lily could help her evaluate the candidates. The ministers heard this and nodded in agreement. Duke Sterling's idea is excellent. In front of Lady Lily, who could hide their secrets? Anyone she approves must be a good person. Lily appeared obedient. This is no problem. Leave it to me. But she thought to herself, I've said it before, no man is any good, so the best approach is like mine, don't marry at all. Live alone, free and easy. Why bother getting married? The smile on Duke Sterling's face immediately froze. If you don't want to marry, that's fine, but don't drag my Claire into it. What woman in this era doesn't marry? She'd be gossiped about behind her back. When Lily and Lord Chen were escorted out, both looked confused. She had clearly helped Duke Sterling with a major favor, yet instead of thanking her, he had thrown them out. She naively asked her father, "Father, why do I feel like we were kicked out?" Lord Chen replied irritably, "You still know you were kicked out." The gossip at Duke Sterling's mansion could be considered finished, but the toads on the wall, no, the princes, ministers, and their entourages on the ladders, were still reluctant to leave. Instead, they could now focus entirely on watching the commotion involving Little Potato. At this moment outside Duke Sterling's mansion, the large golden dogs had dispersed and Little Potato was curled up in a corner, not daring to move. People around looked on puzzledly. Could Little Potato have been bitten to death by the dogs? While they were wondering, suddenly a gust of wind blew by, carrying a thick, foul smell straight to their noses. The crowd couldn't help but quickly cover their noses with their hands. So Little Potato was scared into soiling himself. Oh my. At this moment Little Potato shakily stood up, swaying as if about to fall. The clothes on his body had been torn to shreds by the dogs, looking absolutely pitiful. The ground where he had been lying was soaked through, and his clothes still had some liquid dripping from them. This scene could truly only be described as tragic. But strangely, those golden dogs seemed to have been carefully trained. They had no intention of taking his life, only targeting his clothes to tear. So although there wasn't a single intact piece of fabric left on Little Potato's body, his body had no major injuries. Clearly, the opponents had shown mercy, as if they only wanted to warn him once. It must be admitted that this warning was indeed effective. Little Potato was truly scared out of his wits, though he still couldn't figure out exactly whom he had offended. Could it be Duke Sterling? No, that wasn't right. He had crawled through that hole several times without ever being discovered by anyone in the mansion. Or was it related to the eyes he had seen in the dog hole yesterday? Thinking of how he had once instigated Miss Claire to set dogs on people, Little Potato involuntarily shuddered. Could it really be that person coming back for revenge? Looking at his tattered clothes and wet lower body, Little Potato felt a chill down his spine. At this moment, he just wanted to leave this cursed place as quickly as possible. But as soon as he turned around, suddenly from nowhere 2 groups of horsemen charged toward him, heading straight for him. Little Potato immediately had a bad premonition, his pupils contracting as he wanted to flee, but his legs were shaking and wouldn't obey him. Those people were all dressed in identical black clothing, only revealing their large round eyes, looking no different from the people who had been gossiping on the wall. Well, they had also taken turns going to consume gossip, and beating up Little Potato was just a side task. For such a coward, they naturally didn't bother to take him seriously. Seeing the group getting closer, Little Potato instinctively backed up several steps, pointing at them with shaking hands. "Who are you? What do you want?" The black-clothed men said nothing, just kept advancing step by step. Little Potato was so scared he was shivering, his voice trembling. "Don't come any closer. This is the entrance to Duke Sterling's mansion." But the group didn't stop at all, standing directly in front of him. A group of big men over 6 feet tall facing Little Potato, who was barely 5'6", was like Mount Tai pressing down. The pressure was overwhelming. Little Potato was so scared he held his breath, but suddenly remembering Miss Claire, he puffed out his chest and mustered all his courage. "That's right, I'm the future son-in-law of Duke Sterling's mansion." Even though these people look tall and strong, as soon as they hear Duke Sterling's name, won't they obediently bow their heads? Thinking this, he cleared his throat, deliberately took 2 steps back to gain position, put his hands on his hips, stood on tiptoe, and said loudly, "Let me tell you all, I'm the future son-in-law of Duke Sterling's mansion. Cross me and you'll have no good fruit to eat. Get out of the way." The ministers and princes nearly burst out laughing. Somehow, from their perspective, Little Potato's appearance was hilariously funny. A guy barely 5'6" standing in front of a group of 6-foot-plus giants was like a chick facing a flock of hawks. Not only was he not intimidating, he looked just like a dancing clown. Oh really? So the Duke's son-in-law also likes crawling through dog holes. Then please call the Duke out here. I happen to have something to report. A guard chuckled and patted Little Potato's shoulder lightly. Little Potato fearfully backed up 2 more steps, crying out in panic, "Don't come near me. Don't be afraid. We're just playing a little game to see what you're really made of." Having said this, the guard suddenly grabbed Little Potato by the collar and lightly lifted him up like picking up a chick. Little Potato was so scared his soul nearly left his body, almost crying, "Put me down. Put me down now." Paffed, ha ha ha. The gossiping crowd couldn't hold back anymore, laughing until they nearly fell over. Why did Little Potato's appearance seem so familiar? Ah, they remembered. Wasn't this exactly how Lady Lily typically appeared times she went to court? Puffed. "Lily, could you be a bit more polite?" At this moment, Little Potato's feet were still flailing wildly in mid-air, desperately struggling to break free. The guard suddenly let go, and Little Potato immediately crashed to the ground with a pitiful cry. "How boring. I'll leave this guy to you all." Before Little Potato could recover, dozens of black-clothed men rushed forward, punching and kicking him mercilessly. "Hey! Don't! Stop hitting me!" Little Potato cried out for mercy while being beaten. The black-clothed men beat him until he lay flat on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Before they finally left, Little Potato was beaten until his head spun, constantly wondering what kind of day this was. Which deity had he offended? Little did he know that these 2 groups had actually been lying in ambush since early on. One sent by Duke Sterling, the other arranged by Minister Han, who had been robbed by Little Potato. If they hadn't seen him surrounded by the golden dogs earlier, they would have attacked long ago. Thus, Little Potato was beaten black and blue, limping and struggling to return to Bill's place. He just wanted to lie down and rest a bit, but as soon as Bill saw him, without a word, he launched into a fierce beating. Little Potato was continuously beaten, his mind muddled, only knowing to hold his head and beg for mercy. "Brother Blade, why are you hitting me? I'm your precious Little Red. It's Little Red. Please stop." Bill's real name was Bill One Blade. Brother Blade was the nickname Little Potato had given him. Previously, Bill One Blade had loved being called this and affectionately called Little Potato Little Red Treasure. Who would have thought that now, hearing this name? He not only didn't stop but hit even harder, beating while shouting, "I'm hitting exactly you." True self-worth cannot be built on others' validation or destructive relationships. Claire's journey reveals how childhood emotional neglect creates vulnerability to manipulation. When we lack genuine self-confidence, we become susceptible to predators who exploit our insecurities with false flattery. The story demonstrates that healthy relationships require honest communication and mutual respect, while toxic ones thrive on deception and desperation. Claire's transformation came not from romantic love, but from recognizing her inherent value independent of others' approval. Real healing begins with self-acceptance and ends cycles of seeking validation from unworthy sources.